Chapter 370. Divine Wings of Wind and Thunder, a Peerless Tao Artifact. Even in the Shringzhou it was a heavenly treasure. Moreover, Ling Xiao had already comprehended the laws of thunder and wind. With the power of the laws of thunder and wind, the speed of this treasure, it was really a pleasure of weightlessness. With a speed of 1,000 miles per hour, his mood was F*King high. Boom! The sky-covering spirit palm fell from the sky and crushed the mountains and rivers below. However, at this moment, the fifth-grade God Emperor's face was filled with shock and fear. That golden ancient seal just now seemed a little familiar? Did you see it? His voice was soft. Behind him, the remaining God Emperor's face was also gloomy. It's the heavenly dragon seal of the Xia clan? That's right. I didn't expect that the fake emperor of the Great Xia would dare to plot against the Great Zhou dynasty before he could sit on the throne. He's courting death. Everyone turned around and headed toward the imperial palace. Ling Xiao, on the other hand, had come from the distant mountains. He blended into the crowd and walked towards the city with an indifferent expression. He found this ancient seal from Xia Yong's divine consciousness. It was an inherited Tao technique of the great Xia royal family and would never be taught to outsiders. Only the most direct descendants of the great Xia clan could cultivate it. The reason why he showed this small hand was to draw everyone's attention to the great Xia dynasty. If he wanted to start a war with the great Xia dynasty, he had to plan in advance. Zhou Minyun's death was not a small grudge, especially for Ning Tian's. Even if Emperor Zhou had doubts and wouldn't act rashly, at least Ning Tian's intention to fight was justified. Of course, there was a more important point, since the divine envoys of the sacred sect had come to the four borders. He should find a few scapegoats to share the attention of the true demon. Royal family of the great Xia dynasty, I'll give you a big gift before we meet. Are you happy? Suddenly, the entire Yunfang city fell into panic. The common people were talking about it and the cultivators were all in danger. After all, demons had disappeared from the western border for a long time. Although there were still some ancient sects that cultivated demons in the Xingzhou dynasty, they were not real demons because of their cultivation technique. However, the figure shrouded in demonic aura just now made everyone feel inexplicably depressed. In the study room at the back of the great Zhou dynasty's imperial palace, a middle-aged man in a golden imperial robe was sitting in front of a table, carefully reading the booklet in his hand. The man looked like he was in his 40s. He wore a dragon crown on his head and exuded an aura of authority. It was the true dragon of the great Zhou dynasty, Emperor Zhou, Zhou Qingtsang. It was said that this person's cultivation was extremely high, but no one had ever seen him fight. There were also some who said that there was a sixth-stage God Emperor bodyguard standing behind him, never leaving his side. But no matter what, this Zhou Emperor was famous in the western frontier for his scheming and iron blood. You're saying that a devil sneaked into my Cloud Square city, killed the eldest princess, and seized my great Zhou's precious Emperor vein, immortal gold? At this moment, Emperor Zhou did not even raise his head. His tone was extremely calm. It was as if the death of his daughter and the theft of the immortal gold pellet had nothing to do with him. Yes, the imperial emperor's son-in-law has been severely injured and is in great grief. Standing in the hall was the fifth-grade divine emperor who had chased after Ling Xiao. He was also Emperor Zhou's personal attendant, Chu Dahai. Oh, you saw it clearly? Is it the Xia family's true seal of the Sky Dragon? This old servant saw it clearly. At that time, the commander of the Imperial Guards, Sun Quan, was also there. It was indeed the Xia clan's inherited martial technique, the heavenly dragon true seal. Chu Dahai's expression was grave. A trace of confusion flashed through his aged eyes. At that time, I used the ocean overturning spirit palm to suppress him. In a panic, he used the true seal. However, in the end, he seemed to have used an extremely terrifying demonic technique. He used his demonic chi to create a spatial gate and escape. Imperial Emperor. I heard that Xia Yong died a few days ago. Emperor Zhou asked calmly. His eyes were deep and there were no ripples in them. This old servant also heard about it. It was said that he wanted to go to the Xia clan's ancestral land to open some sort of inheritance. In the end, the ancestral land exploded. Xia Yong, the young masters of several major aristocratic families, and that ninth prince all died together. Died? Did you find their corpses? It was said that the ancestral land directly collapsed. A very strong smell of blood was emitted from it. Imperial Emperor, you mean, who will benefit from the war between the Great Zhou dynasty and the Great Xia dynasty? Emperor Zhou put down the memorial and raised his head to look at Chu Dahai. Benefit? The surrounding dynasties will all benefit. However, the one who benefits the most is still Xia Yong. After all, Chu Dahai seemed to have understood something. Imperial Emperor, you mean that Xia Yong cultivated the demonic path? Yes or no, there is nothing to be afraid of. I am just very curious. How did the prince consort survive? Also, how did that demonic path sneak into the city? A trace of coldness flashed through Emperor Zhou's eyes. Chu Dahai immediately bowed and knelt on the ground. Imperial Emperor, pass down the order. All the city guards who were guarding the imperial capital yesterday are to be killed. Exterminate their 3 clans. Go and watch the prince consort personally. See if he wants to volunteer to fight against the Great Xia. Yes. Only when Chu Dahai left the hall did a sneer appear on Emperor Zhou's face. Ning Tiance, do you really want wars to break out in the Great Zhou dynasty? That way, you will have an excuse to lead the army again? You think too simply of this matter. However, this is also good. If you really collude with Xia Yong, I will have a chance to kill you legitimately. The Great Xia dynasty was adjacent to the Great Zhou dynasty. Emperor Xia Yong. Zhou Qingsong had been fighting with him for decades. Based on his understanding of that person, even if he was chased to Su Yun City, he wouldn't die easily. Therefore, all of this might be a conspiracy. Xia Yong's current strength was obviously not enough to take back the empire. Therefore, it wasn't that he didn't want to kill Ning Tiance. Although a third-grade divine emperor was troublesome, it wasn't a cause for concern. However, if he really did that, the northern region would definitely rebel. He trapped Ning Tiance in the imperial capital for 2 reasons. Firstly, it was for the immortal art of war. Secondly, it was to reduce Ning Tiance's influence in the northern region. As for Zhou Minxue, my son's righteousness will go down in history. Above a magnificent restaurant in Yunfang City, Ling Xiao coldly looked at the soldiers running on the street. He felt the majestic aura surging above the city, and a faint smile appeared on his face. Obviously, the Great Zhou dynasty was going to be in chaos. As long as he sent Ning to Ning Tiance tomorrow, this chess game would be completely set. Would Emperor Zhou suspect Ning Tiance? Of course he would. Not only would he suspect Ning Tiance, but he would also suspect everyone who was a threat to the Zhou clan's royal power. But so what? The northern region was the border between the Great Zhou dynasty and the Great Xia dynasty. Once the war started, this region would bear the brunt. As long as the Great Xia dynasty sent troops, Emperor Zhou would have no choice but to send his generals to defend. However, in the past decade, the generals of the northern region were constantly targeted by the imperial court. They even embezzled their military funds and supplies just to suppress the arrogance of the northern region. Therefore, once the war started, who would be loyal to the imperial court? In other words, who was qualified to lead this iron-blooded lion that was cold to the imperial court? There was only one answer. The war god of the northern region, Ning Tiance. Of course, Emperor Zhou would never dream that the Great Xia dynasty, which was already in chaos, would dare to send troops to the Great Zhou dynasty? They really didn't dare to now. However, they dared to. You are just a bunch of unfilial descendants. Now that your ancestors are back, if you don't act tough, when will you? Chapter 371. A day passed in the blink of an eye. The entire Yunfang city was completely under martial law. Everyone who entered or left had to be strictly checked. Imperial guards in heavy armor could be seen everywhere in the streets and alleys. On this day, Ning Tiance was sitting in the palace with Zhou Minhua in his arms. He was in a daze. He didn't even greet the personal servant sent by Emperor Zhou. The war god of the north was haggard overnight. The next morning, Ning Tiance suddenly left the palace in plain clothes and went to the Jiangyu Inn. He drank alone until dusk. Chu Dehai stood in a pavilion next to the inn and looked at the passers-by with gloomy eyes. He had some understanding of Ning Tiance's habit. In the past 10 years, he had been hiding in this small inn to drown his sorrows. The palace had already secretly investigated the owner of this inn. He was an old man with no cultivation base and no background. He had joined the army in the north and returned to the capital after being injured. Then, he opened this small inn. This was probably the reason why Ning Tiance often came here. Ling Xiao held Ning Er's hand and walked on the streets of the ancient city. He could feel Chu Dehai's aura, but he didn't take it seriously. Yunfang City was full of undercurrent. If he was careless, he would attract attention. It was better to be frank so that people wouldn't be suspicious. "Brother, who are you taking me to see?" Ning Er seemed to have noticed something. She looked nervous along the way. Ling Xiao just smiled and shook his head. "Ning Er, don't be afraid. I'm taking you to see your father. He's a great hero." "Brother, do you not want Ning Er anymore?" Ning Er's eyes were filled with tears. She didn't understand the word father. But these days, she spent more time with Yi Qinchan and Ling Xiao. She gradually became dependent on them. "How can that be? We're just going to see him and then return to the heavenly palace. Your sister Qinchan is still waiting for you." Ling Xiao smiled gently. "What a joke. Even if you want to follow your father, I won't be at ease. I'm counting on you. No, Yunfang City is so chaotic. I don't think your father will let you stay here." "Really? I like you and sister Qinchan." A smile blossomed on Ning Er's face. Ling Xiao finally stepped into the hut. "Brother Xiao." As expected, Ning Tiance had been waiting for a long time. His eyes were bloodshot and he looked haggard. This is, suddenly, Ning Tiance was stunned. Or rather, he felt an indescribable emotion when he first saw Ning Er. Tears began to flow from his eyes, but just as he walked up to Ning Er, the latter hid behind Ling Xiao in fear. "Big brother, she's Ning Er." Ling Xiao smiled warmly and signaled Ning Tiance with his eyes. "Brother Xiao, don't worry. The owner of this restaurant is my former subordinate. As for those spies outside," Ning Tiance suddenly sneered. In Yunfang City, there was a sudden flash of spiritual light, and it was a mess. Obviously, although Ning Tiance had been in the capital for a long time, he still had some loyal subordinates following him. "Ning Er, he's your father, Ning Tiance. He's also the war god of Great Zhou. He's a respected hero." Ling Xiao held Ning Er's hand and pulled her in front of Ning Tiance. "Your father didn't want to abandon you. He just had something important to do. That's why he sent you to Suyun City. You father and daughter should have a good chat." "Really? You're a hero?" Ning Er's eyes flashed with surprise. Along the way, she had also imagined how her parents would look like. Although she didn't know much about the war god, every child yearned for their father to be a hero. "My father is a great hero. I used to be Ning Er. You've suffered all these years." Ning Tiance smiled bitterly and his eyes were lonely. "Big brother, Yunfang City is in turmoil now. I think Ning Er should stay with me for the time being?" Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with seriousness. Ning Tiance finally nodded and looked at Ling Xiao gratefully. "Brother Xiao, I'll never forget your kindness." Beat. The destined person is subdued. Congratulations to the host for plundering 500 luck points and 5,000 villain point. "Big brother, you're exaggerating. Emperor Zhou is insidious. He schemed against the war god protector. Big brother, you just need to wait patiently. I think it won't be long before he begs you to return to the northern region to lead the army. Brother Xiao. I'll bring Ning to the Great Xia. If you trust me, just wait patiently. As for Ning safety, you don't have to worry. I swear by my Dao heart that I'll protect her. Ling Xiao looked calm. Ning Tiance pondered for a moment and then nodded slowly. When I return to the northern region, I'll accompany you to conquer the world. At this moment, although Ning Tiance didn't know Ling Xiao's identity, he could feel that this little brother had great ambitions. However, this kind of ambition wasn't insidious. Instead, it was open and unguarded. Big brother, you're wrong. I don't want you to lead the army to conquer the world with me. I just promised someone that I'll take back his country. Once I fulfill my promise, I'll leave the Xinjiang. As for the world, why not give it to you? Ling Xiao smiled freely. However, Ning Tiance's eyes suddenly narrowed. So, I've misunderstood him. Trustworthiness, honesty, and eternal hegemony couldn't compare to a promise in his eyes. At this moment, Ning Tiance's face suddenly bloomed with a bright smile. Beat. The destined person is completely subdued. Additional reward activated. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a chance to perfect the Tao Law. Ancient Immortal Array, 9 Dragons Heavenlock Array. Haha, it's finally here. Ling Xiao lowered his head and glanced at Ning. It's time for us to leave. I think you and your father will be reunited soon. Ning Tiance's eyes were filled with reluctance. Ning didn't refuse as bashfully as before. Instead, she looked at Ning Tiance and suddenly said, "Can you tell me how you defended your country the next time we meet?" Of course. Of course. Ning stay with your Uncle Xiao. You must be obedient. Uncle Xiao? Ning eyes flashed with confusion. However, Ling Xiao rubbed her head and said, "It's okay. You can call me whatever you want. It's not important. Brother Xiao, this is my secret order. Only the generals of the northern region can recognize it. Take it with you. I really can't get out of the imperial capital. You can also lead the millions of soldiers in the northern region." Ning Tiance took out an ancient order from his bosom and handed it to Ling Xiao. His eyes were filled with domineering aura. "Big brother. Fine. If you can't get out of the imperial capital, I'll come here and take you out." Ling Xiao took a deep breath and finally stopped hesitating. He held Ning-er's little hand and walked out of the restaurant. He cursed, "Damn it! Why can't we drink here when you can't? Who do you think you are? The god of war?" Ning-er looked at Ling Xiao in shock. She obviously didn't understand why her brother suddenly turned hostile. Yi Qingchan was already waiting in the distance. When she saw the two of them walking over, a gentle smile bloomed on her beautiful face. The three of them walked over hand in hand. Chu Dahai's figure flew over from afar. He looked at Ling Xiao cautiously but didn't stop him. The two people who had broken through to the illusion realm were overflowing with immortal light. They were walking on the streets so openly. They were definitely not evil cultivators. They looked like Dao companions who were traveling the mountains and rivers. Moreover, looking at their age, they couldn't be Ning Tiance's former subordinate. But that little girl's appearance. Why should I remind that young man to be careful of? Old Wang next door? When Ling Xiao and the two of them walked out of Yunfang City and summoned the 9 Dragons' golden carriage, the outline of the city below them gradually became small and disappeared. Now that the chessboard of the great Zhou dynasty had been set up, the only thing left was the east wind. Ning Tiance was destined to be Ling Xiao's sharp blade in his conquest of the western region. The god of war of a generation had surrendered. Haha, Great Xia! Your ancestor is back. Chapter 372. The Great Xia Empire was adjacent to the Great Zhou Empire. With the speed of the 9 Dragons' golden carriage, they reached the Great Xia Empire in just 3 days. Along the way, Ling Xiao helped Yi Qinchan and Ning settle down in the realm. He had also perfected the way of wind, so he had a way to protect himself. It was hard to say whether he could defeat a god emperor now that he had perfected the way of wind and thunder. However, with the wings of wind and thunder, Ling Xiao was not targeting anyone in terms of escaping speed. Everyone in the Xingzhou Empire was trashed. He had also set up the 9 dragons sky imprisoning array in the realm. With the 2 spirit veins as the eye of the array, he could defeat a god emperor. With the 9 spirit veins as the eye, Ling Xiao was confident that he could trap and kill a god emperor even if the realm had not developed the power of heaven and earth. Brother, where are we going now? At the border of the great Xia Empire, in a small dilapidated city. Ling Xiao and the other 2 sat at a tea stall on the side of the street, drinking tea and eating some snack. Yi Qinchan rested her chin on her hands and looked at the young man in front of her gently. The past few days were the happiest of her life. However, she had a strange feeling that the day she left Ling Xiao was not far away. The Great Xia Imperial Palace. Ling Xiao took a sip of tea. However, the moment he turned his head, he saw a young man in plain clothes flash past him. He spat out the tea he had just drunk. Young master, what's wrong? Yi Qinchan's eyes were clear and cold, and the power of Tao laws faintly spread around her. The entire ancient street instantly turned cold. If it were not for the fact that it was already midwinter, the people would have been terrified. I'm fine. Ling Xiao shook his head and patted Ning-er's little head. Ning-er, are you full? If you are, go back to the Sky Hall with Sister Qinchan to rest. Okay. Ning-er nodded obediently. Yi Qinchan only glanced suspiciously at the young man at the end of the street. How could a Xianqing person enter the eyes of the young master? Of course, even though she had been with Ling Xiao for a long time, Yi Qinchan still could not figure out what was destiny and what was the system. Therefore, in her eyes, the young master was mysterious, powerful, unpredictable, and loved her. Ling Xiao waited until the 2 of them had disappeared from their original positions before he lifted his foot and chased after the youth. Just now, he seemed to have seen 2,000 wisps of karmic luck flash before his eyes. As expected of a chaotic world, geniuses were emerging in large numbers. Were the children of destiny all strolling around the streets? Moreover, most importantly, the child of destiny was only at the early stage of Xianqing. Moreover, judging from his age, he was clearly over 20 years old. How was this possible? In the Shengzhou continent, which genius with even the slightest bit of luck had not established a soul palace and reached the Paong stage. Although this young man's luck wasn't as exaggerated as Ling Tian and the others, it wasn't much different from Su Yan and the others. But how could his cultivation be so low? Another trash rising to power? It didn't seem like it. In this small border city, there wasn't even a decent cultivation family. How could there be a rundown ancient clan, whose template was the one he left behind? But who cares? Leeks were delivered to my door. How could I not cut them? Do you think I really want to eat leeks? If it wasn't for its magical effect, thinking of the future, Nian Qinyun, Yi Qinchan, Su Yan, Lin Meng, I still have to eat. Eat with all your might. Ling Zhao's figure suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of a medicine shop in the city. The young man in linen clothes walked out with 2 big bags of medicinal herbs in his hands. He looked flustered and almost bumped into Ling Zhao's arms. I'm sorry. Young master. I'm sorry. His eyes were very clear and there was a simple apologetic look on his face. It's okay. Ling Xiao shook his head and smiled. The young man bowed and rushed out of the city. Lady boss, what's your surname? Ling Xiao walked into the medicine shop and asked casually. My surname is Sun. The Sun of Lavender? The Sun of Zhao Qian and Sun Li. Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly as he looked playfully at the young lady in front of him, who was in her 40s, but still had her charm intact. My surname is B, the B of Long Ma. What's the name of the young man just now? Him. His name is Han Zhan. He's a disciple of the immortal seeking sect outside the city. The lady boss smiled charmingly and lowered her head to fiddle with the abacus. What medicine did he take? Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows. Shiver? I'm still shivering with him. He's ugly and rustic. No wonder he's the chosen one. Well, young master, our medicine shop has principles. We can't be careless, Clang. Ha ha ha, of course. A person like you who cares about the world is obviously a righteous hero. Young master, do you find Han Zhan pitiful? Yes, he is quite pitiful. The lady boss picked up a spirit stone that fell on the table and her eyes lit up. Get to the point. Ling Xiao said indifferently. The charming lady instantly felt a chill all over her body. Large beads of sweat flowed down her forehead and she almost fell to the ground. Han Zhan's master is said to be a great cultivator. However, he was seriously injured in a fight and could only use medicine to prolong his life. Han Zhan originally had a senior sister. In the past, it was his senior sister who went down the mountain to get medicine. However, his senior sister suddenly disappeared a while ago. So, he has been going down the mountain to buy medicine for the past 6 months. Oh. This trick sounds a little familiar. Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows. No wonder. Han Zhan's cultivation was so weak. It turned out that he wasn't a loser. His master has a strange temper. He often beats and scolds Han Zhan. It's better today. Previously, every time I saw him, his face and body were bruised. Sigh. I guess his senior sister couldn't bear the torture and ran away. The lady boss shook her head slightly. When she looked up again, the white-robed young master was nowhere to be seen. A ghost? No. It should be an immortal. On the other side, Ling Xiao left the medicine shop and walked out of the ancient city. He walked along the mountain path and headed towards a barren mountain in the distance. From afar, he saw a dilapidated ancient palace on the mountain top. This should be the immortal seeking sect that the medicine shop owner mentioned. Master is in the late stage of the mystic clear realm and disciple is in the early stage of the mystic clear realm? It seems like this leek is about to mature. If I don't cut it now, I'm afraid I won't be able to cut it. Ling Xiao smiled sinisterly. According to his understanding, Han Zhan's senior sister was most likely refined into medicine or a puppet by his master. Now, this master and disciple were probably on the verge of falling out. What he needed to do was naturally to help them break through this thin layer of paper. He needed to attack their Tao heart and plunder their fate. Then he, with Ling Xiao's current cultivation, not to mention 2 mystic clear realm experts, even ordinary god emperors might not be able to detect his aura. Therefore, this immortal seeking sect was like his own backyard. As Ling Xiao spread out his divine perception, he easily sensed the side room where Han Zhan's master was. Whether it was the puppet or the medicine, Han Zhan's senior sister was definitely in his master's hands. Of course, since this Han Zhan was the child of destiny, he was probably the real medicine that could help his crippled master get rid of his illness. Therefore Ling Xiao stood outside the door. Through the window, he looked at an old man lying on the bed. He was on the verge of death, and there was a human head soaked in a mud jar beside the bed. As expected, mortal flow. Interesting. Chapter 373. Ling Xiao sneered, and his figure drifted away. At this moment, he could feel that Han Zhan had used some unknown method to conceal his cultivation. Of course, this method could fool his master, who was old and weak, but in front of Ling Xiao, it was naturally useless. Han Zhan, who was originally lying on the bed and resting with his eyes closed, suddenly sat up. In his eyes, there was an indescribable panic and helplessness. How could a young man who had not even opened his soul palace understand the profoundness of divine sense voice transmission? At this moment, he only felt a voice lingering in his mind. It was faintly familiar. "Junior brother, it's me. I'm your senior sister. Damn. I was careless. Just now, he had forgotten to ask the medicine store owner what the name of Han Zhan's senior sister was. What? Senior sister duo. Is it you? You, where are you?" Han Zhan's eyes suddenly surged with a trace of panic. Even his tone was full of hesitation. "Junior brother Han. I died so unjustly. Hurry up and run. Master is about to use your Dantian's internal organs to refine medicine." "What?" Beep. The son of destiny's heart trembled. Congratulations to the host for plundering 300 points of luck and 3,000 points of villain. A mortal's temperament was not necessarily bad, but their knowledge was definitely lacking. These few sentences were enough to fool him. Of course, a child of destiny born as a mortal like Han Zhan had always been cautious, taking every step with great care. Therefore, he had probably guessed his master's sinister intentions long ago. It was just that his strength was not enough and he did not dare to explode. He only wanted to endure until the day when his strength was enough to jump out of the cage. The original plot should have been like this, but he could only blame himself for going down the mountain today. The route to buy medicine was not suitable. "Senior sister. What are you talking about? How could Master?" Han Zhan's hair stood on end. He had indeed discovered it long ago. Senior sister's disappearance was too strange. On the second day after senior sister went missing, Master's behavior became strange. In his room, the sound of meat being chopped could be heard from time to time. But every time Han Zhan wanted to go in and take a look, he was beaten and scolded out by his master. But the more it was like this, the more frightened Han Zhan became. "Junior Marshal brother, if you don't believe me, my head is in Master's room. You can go and take a look. However, I advise you to quickly run. Otherwise, you will become Master's next prey. His injury is in the pill sea, so he wants to devour our pill sea to cultivate." Ling Xiao randomly made up an excuse. How would he know where the old man was injured? In any case, he would just say whatever he wanted to say. "Senior sister. Your remnant soul hasn't been destroyed yet, so you must be unwilling to accept this. Tell me, how can I send you back to samsara?" A cold glint gradually appeared in Han Zhang's eyes. He was timid and weak, but Senior Marshal Sister Duo had taken great care of him. In fact, Han Zhan had some feelings for her in his heart. If he left like this, wouldn't his Tao heart be covered in dust? As the son of destiny, his character must be set up to be loyal and righteous. Even if he knew that there were risks and dangers, he would not hesitate to do it for the sake of his feelings. "Junior Marshal brother, you're stupid. That old man won't live for many years. Run away first. When he doesn't have much time left, you can come back and bury me." Ling Xiao sneered, his voice full of anger. If he advised Han Zhan to attack his master now, it would make him suspicious. Most people were like that. The more you don't let him do something, the harder it is for him to choose. As expected, Han Zhan seemed to be extremely hesitant. "But if he kills someone else, wouldn't you sigh? Junior Marshal brother, I know you're kind-hearted, but listen to Senior Marshal sister's advice. Quickly leave this place. Don't be rash." Okay. Senior Marshal sister, take care. I'll definitely come back." In the end, Han Zhan took a deep breath and simply packed his luggage. He put away some of the spiritual materials that he usually collected and quietly ran out of the hall. But at this moment, suddenly, there was a hurried sound of wind breaking in the sky. If Han Zhan hadn't circulated his spiritual power, he would have suspected that the sound of wind breaking was made by him. Han Zhan, where are you going?" The immortal-seeking sect master's figure swept over from the side. His pale and gloomy face carried a strong sense of resentment and anger. Especially when he saw Han Zhan's luggage, The killing intent in his eyes could no longer be concealed. Master. Han Zhan was at a loss. Could it be that the sound just now was made by Senior Marshal Sister when she was running away? Sigh, this Senior Marshal Sister of his was too careless. She was always in a daze. But the more she was like this, the more warm and lovely she was. But could a soul also make the sound of wind breaking? I'm asking you, where are you going? Master, where did Senior Marshal Sister go? Seeing that his plan had been exposed, Han Zhan finally took a deep breath and asked coldly. At this moment, he actually still had a trace of luck in his heart. Although his master was very strict with him, he had saved his life once. At that time, he was just a wandering beggar in the city at the foot of the mountain. He was chased by wild beasts in the mountain and fell off a cliff, breaking both his legs. If he hadn't met his master, he might have died long ago. Of course, it was also that day that he picked up a treasure that changed his fate. But how could the remnant soul of his Senior Marshal Sister deceive him? Yes, the head. As long as he figured out the secret in his master's room, everything would come to light. Your Senior Marshal Sister went out to travel. Didn't I tell you many times? Why, you don't believe me. The immortal-seeking sect master's eyes were gloomy like snakes and scorpions in the mountains. At first glance, it was obvious that he wasn't a decent person. Then I also want to go out to travel. I hope Master can help me. Han Zhan gritted his teeth. He had concealed his cultivation base, and by chance, he had even cultivated a strange technique. But his master was after all an expert in the late stage of xianqing. He might not be a match for him now. You can't. Your skills are not good enough. Now that the world is in turmoil, going out is no different from courting death. The immortal-seeking sect master shook his head. Just as Han Zhan's eyes were filled with coldness and he was about to escape, he suddenly stepped forward. It's not impossible to go out, but before that, you have to leave the elixir sea for me. What? Senior Marshal Sister was really killed by you. Beep. The destined child's Taoist heart is unstable. Congratulations to the host for plundering 300 luck points and 3,000 villain points. In an instant, Han Zhan's eyes were filled with tears. He even started to tremble and break down. In the end, all his guesses were confirmed. His master was really the culprit who killed Senior Marshal Sister. Why? Han Zhan gritted his teeth and looked at the immortal-seeking sect master with grief and indignation. Why? Disciple, have you forgotten that on the first day you entered the sect, I taught you that on the path of immortality, you can't trust anyone. The struggle for benefits and fortune is the truth of the path of immortality. Beep. The destined child's Taoist heart is broken. Congratulations to the host for plundering 500 luck points and 5,000 villain points. Chapter 374. Ha 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 ha. The Path of Immortality. Ha. It turns out that even Master doesn't believe in the so-called path of immortality. Han Zhan's eyes were filled with sorrow. In the past 6 years, he had been with his master day and night. Although it was plain, it was comfortable. Originally, Han Zhan thought that as long as he was careful, his life would not be in danger. However, he had never expected that his plan would come to an end, and he would be enlightened today. The battle of interests and the battle of fortune. Is this the path of immortality that mortals are envious of? Is this the immortal that mortals believe in? It's also your senior sister's fault. If her body was suitable, I wouldn't have made a move on you. What a pity. Han Zhan, are you going to obediently give up, or are you going to fight with me? The immortal-seeking sect master smiled eerily. In his eyes, Han Zhan was not only a loser, but also a cowardly person. Originally, he was controlled by him, but he suddenly had a mind of his own. Haha, so when Master saved me that day, you just wanted to use my body to refine medicine? Han Zhan lowered his head and sneered. Suddenly, a cold light appeared in his hand and shot toward the immortal-seeking sect master. Huh? How dare you? It seems that you didn't only care about eating for the past 5 years. Clang! The sound of metal instantly resounded. A mirror suddenly appeared in the immortal-seeking sect master's hand. The 3 hidden weapons that were refined with lethal poison instantly fell to the ground and dyed the ground black. You heartless little bastard! How dare you be so vicious? The immortal-seeking sect master shouted coldly. Spiritual light flashed outside his body, and he struck out his palm toward Han Zhan's heart. I must avenge senior sister. Humph! I didn't expect you to hide so well. Disciple, it seems that not only Master doesn't believe you, but you also don't trust me. Up in the air, Ling Xiao looked at the 2 people fighting below with a bored expression. He was actually starting to feel a little sleepy. He could easily crush a Xianqing cultivator with 1 finger. If it weren't for the fact that Han Zhan still had some luck, he would have killed them both. Poochie! In the end, Han Zhan's body trembled as he was struck down from the sky by the immortal-seeking sect master. His aura gradually weakened. After all, according to the normal development of the plot, he should not have escaped today. As long as he was given more time, he would definitely make a breakthrough in his cultivation. When the time came, this immortal-seeking sect master would definitely die. Hee, my good disciple, isn't it a happy thing to be eaten by your master? Relax your mind. Come, it'll be done soon. The sect master of the immortal-seeking sect was already a deity overlord. Unfortunately, his meridians were destroyed and his cultivation dropped to this level. As far as he was concerned, as long as he could find a core C that could fuse with him, his cultivation would definitely be restored. Suddenly, a wisp of evil soul light flashed in his eyes. Just as Han Zhan was about to resist, the immortal-seeking sect master stepped on his head. Buzz! A wisp of soul aura quietly filled the sky. Suddenly, a green ancient tablet in front of Han Zhan's chest blossomed with a monstrous spiritual light. A spiritual treasure protecting its master? Interesting. This must be the trump card of the Chosen One. The rise of a mortal and the recognition of an immortal treasure. In the sky, Ling Xiao smiled faintly and suddenly waved his finger. A blinding sword shadow flashed across the sky. Before the immortal-seeking sect master could react, he was sliced in half. Han Zhan's indignant and angry expression immediately froze. He looked up and saw the white-robed figure descending from the sky. His eyes were filled with respect. Especially at this moment, the light emitted from the latter's body was gentle and dazzling. An immortal? Han Zhan slowly stood up and bowed respectfully to the sky. Thank you, immortal, for saving my life. As expected, Master was wrong. The path to immortality was not only about benefits, but also good and evil. For example, this immortal in front of him must have helped him because he could not stand his master's evil nature. Let me see the immortal tablet in your chest. However, before Han Zhan could straighten up, Ling Xiao's words made his expression turn blank. Immortal? Immortal, Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows and released a wisp of Emperor's aura. Han Zhan felt the world tremble and almost fell to the ground. Buzz! The green immortal tablet flew out and landed in Ling Xiao's hand. However, no matter how Ling Xiao activated his spirit energy or his divine soul, the immortal tablet did not react. The Destined One's spiritual treasure was a unique opportunity for the Chosen One. For the Chosen One who rose from a mortal, his talent was not good, his background was not good, he did not have a sister, and he did not have a powerful mother. Therefore, his spiritual treasure was where all his luck was. It contained a trace of the heavenly Tao's shackles. Even with Ling Xiao's means, he could not snatch it away. Your immortal tablet is quite interesting. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and returned it to Han Zhan. The fear on the latter's face almost froze in an instant. You're giving it back to me? So, I misunderstood you, immortal. At this time, Ling Zhao's face was covered by immortal clouds, which made him look mysterious. Immortal, please accept me as your disciple. Help me comprehend the truth of the great Tao. Han Zhan knelt on the ground with a plop. Compared to the immortal-seeking sect master, this immortal in front of him was all he expected from a cultivator. He did not snatch treasures, he was chivalrous, he eliminated evil and promoted good, he was not greedy for his own interests. Only such a person was worthy of him kneeling and showing filial respect. A teacher for a day, for life, beep. The chosen one is in awe of the villain. Congratulations to the host for plundering 300 luck points and 3,000 villain points. What's the use of your immortal tablet? In fact, Ling Xiao had already guessed it. The reason why he hesitated was that he was thinking whether to kill Han Zhan and get the final reward, or, immortal, my immortal tablet can use my own spiritual energy to condense immortal radiance. This immortal radiance contains extremely rich essence of plants. At this time, Han Zhan only wanted to acknowledge this immortal as his master. Since he returned the immortal tablet to him, he was obviously not greedy. So, he naturally told him everything he knew. However, he probably never dreamed that this immortal tablet was a spiritual treasure that Daddy Heavenly Tao had customized for him. It was useless in the hands of others. Otherwise, how do you think a mortal with such a precious treasure would be able to live a peaceful life? Even if others took his treasure, they would not be able to find any clues. Why bother? I understand. Ling Xiao grinned. Suddenly, a trace of gloominess flashed across his eyes. Han Zhan only felt his soul sea tremble, and a wisp of soul seal disappeared in an instant. Then, he seemed to be even more afraid of this old immortal in front of him. Buzz. A strange buzzing sound resounded, and the world in front of him changed instantly. When Han Zhan opened his eyes again, the immortal-seeking sect was no longer in front of him. It had become a wilderness. Immortal seniors means, as expected, it's not something that mortals like me can guess. Just as Han Zhan was secretly shocked, Ling Xiao waved his hand. Suddenly, many immortal herbs and spiritual flowers appeared in front of them. The dense spiritual energy almost made Han Zhan faint. Immortal Senior, are you going to give me good fortune? Chapter 375. I'll give you 1 month's time to plant all these herbs and flowers. I'll give you some of the fruits they bear. You can continue to plant the seeds for me. Don't think about slacking off. This is my world. Of course, if you do well, I'll give you the title of Heavenly Hall's King of Medicine. Ling Xiao suddenly sneered. Han Zhan just nodded blankly. He felt that something was wrong, but he couldn't tell what was wrong. Elder Immortal seemed to have taken me in and promised me all kinds of opportunities. The title of Heavenly Hall's King of Medicine? He seemed to be very awesome. But wasn't I supposed to be the only one in the world when I stepped on the path of immortality? Why did I become a herb grower? Oh no. My model should be pursuing immortality. I should be cautious and careful, step by step, just to seize the opportunity and seek the great fortune of heaven and earth. But plant the herbs, eat the herbs, cultivate, plant the herbs, eat the herbs, it seems to be much easier than cultivating blindly. Moreover, these spiritual materials of heaven and earth in front of him were simply unheard of and unseen. As long as I can plant them well, Elder Immortal has promised to give me some of them. Elder Immortal, you're just. You're righteous. While Han Zhan was pondering, Ling Zhao's figure had already disappeared. Haha, he couldn't use the immortal tablet. But Han Zhan could use it. He could use Han Zhan. He knew the magical effect of the immortal tablet. It was nothing more than catalyzing the ripening of the herbs and trees. Once he filled this realm with natural spiritual materials and found a few more alchemists, wouldn't he be completely self-sufficient? As for why he gave Han Zhan the opportunity? Of course, it was to make him work hard to cultivate and raise his cultivation level so that he could condense more immortal tablet. Anyway, the Son of Destiny had lost his fortune and could not cause any trouble. Now, he had become his slave. Although he had not been able to obtain the final reward from the system, with Han Zhan around, it was equivalent to having an endless supply of cultivation resources. Moreover, for a mortal protagonist like him, once he grew up, he would be at the peak of the world. His willpower was even more terrifying. But this process was too slow. It would take more than 1,000 chapters to harden. Ling Xiao really didn't have the time to wait for him to grow. Not killing was already a blessing. Obediently planting medicine was where the value of his life lay. In this way, there was no need for him to look for the ancient realm of ruins. Han Zhan alone was equivalent to millions of secret realms. As for whether Ling Xiao would meet the mortal Lu Tianming, who had already established himself in the future, he probably would. Because on this path to immortality, those who were protected by the heavenly Tao were mostly such people. No, I have to write a letter to little cutie Su Yen and ask him to send over 100 tons of immortal materials from Cloud Gathering Merchant Union. Young Master! When Ling Zhao's figure appeared in front of the Sky Hall, Yi Qingchan's beautiful face immediately bloomed with a charming smile. You're done. Yes. Qingchan, I'm going to the capital of the great Xia dynasty in the next few days. You and Ning can stay here at ease. I'll come back when I have time. Baby, see you later. Baby, sleep early. I still have to go to the next party. The trip to the Great Xia dynasty was related to Ling Zhao's strategic deployment in the western border. He couldn't be careless at all. Moreover, that prince who seized the Great Xia dynasty's destiny really made Ling Xiao feel that he was somewhat familiar. The capital of the Great Xia dynasty was called Longyun. It was said that the ancestor of the Great Xia dynasty had found a dragon vein inheritance and comprehended the slaughter Dao law. He shattered the void in one go and ascended to the upper realm. The cultivation technique that the Great Xia dynasty's royal family cultivated was also related to the dragon vein. Originally, the Great Xia dynasty was the leader of the 8 great dynasties. However, with the internal strife of the Great Xia dynasty 15 years ago, although the dynasty still had its foundation, it still lost some deterrence in the end. Today, Longyun City was extraordinarily lively. Pedestrians came in a continuous stream, and all kinds of people came to congratulate. Because today was the 100th birthday of the Great Xia dynasty's Empress Dowager. On the ancient street, long lanterns hung, and red silk covered the sky. The common people and cultivators all had smiles on their faces. Ling Xiao walked on the street with a hint of joy on his face. The Empress Dowager's 100th birthday? Wasn't this a coincidence? As long as he walked into the palace, wouldn't he know how many heavenly fate realm cultivators there were in the Great Xia dynasty? With the divine soul incarnation that Tao Master Taishan had given him, not to mention a mere fake emperor of the Great Xia dynasty, even the top god emperor in the western border was nothing to be afraid of. Buzz. Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly. With a thought, Yi Qingchan's figure instantly appeared beside him. Qingchan? Young master. Yi Qingchan smiled faintly and put her hands on Ling Xiao's arm. What's wrong? Ning went to cultivate with Senior Xing. I'm bored alone in the heavenly hall. Yi Qingchan pouted and revealed an aggrieved expression. Ever since Ning came, she hadn't been alone with young master for a long time. But, don't worry, young master. I can protect myself now. Of course, Yi Qingchan understood what Ling Xiao was worried about. After all, this was the western border and it was extremely chaotic. Once Ling Xiao fought with someone, she would definitely become a hindrance. All right, then you can stay by my side. Ling Xiao shook his head and smiled. He reached out to hold Yi Qingchan's jade-like hand and walked towards a magnificent restaurant in front of them. Today at noon, The palace held a banquet to entertain visiting guests and celebrate the Empress Dowager's birthday. However, before that, Ling Xiao still had to find someone to search, take a look, and understand. Most importantly, he saw an interesting figure in front of the window of the restaurant. When the two of them walked into the restaurant, they saw that there were no empty seats inside. However, Ling Xiao's eyes quietly fell on someone. At a table near the window, a young man in white was drinking alone. His jade-like face was extraordinarily handsome, and there was a hint of charm about him. Ling Xiao's lips curled up slightly and he almost laughed out loud. So fast. Appearing one after another? 4,000 Providence points, second-grade Divine General, Heaven Amplification Elixir Body, Dual Laws of Mystic Lightning and Mystic Fire? Most importantly, although this young master looked extraordinarily handsome, he didn't seem to have an Adam's apple. Even the part of his chest that was tied up looked extremely bloated. It seemed very big. He wondered if this kind of talented girl who had comprehended the laws of fire and lightning would have some other kind of stimulation? Jumping candy? Also, what made Ling Xiao feel a little strange was that although this woman had vitality, there was no vitality on her. There was even a faint, strange fragrance. Could it be that she had a unique treasure that could conceal her aura? Young master, do you mind sharing a table? Ling Xiao led Yi Qingchan to the side of the white-clothed young man. The latter frowned slightly. When he raised his head, he saw that Ling Xiao and Yi Qingchan were already in front of him. His pitch-black eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. However, his eyes weren't on Ling Xiao. Instead, they were on Yi Qingchan. F***CK? Have a seat. How should I address you, young master? Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with a hint of playfulness. This cross-dressing girl wasn't a nobody. Otherwise, she wouldn't have done this. Looking at this girl's cross-dressing, it was already shocking. He wondered how stunning her cross-dressing would be. I'm Qiu Qinghan. Oh, it's Brother Qiu. I'm Xiao Ling, it's not important. May I know your name? Qiu Qinghan didn't even look at Ling Xiao. Instead, she turned her head and looked at Yi Qingchan gently. I'm Qingchan. Azure collar, 1,000 miles of beauty. What a good name. May I know how old you are? Who is your master? What's your relationship with this young master? Ling Xiao stared dumbfoundedly at the young girl's eloquence, looking as if she was a seasoned veteran. At this moment, he felt that he had guessed wrongly. She cross-dressed not only to hide her identity, but also to seduce girls. I'm young master's maid. Yi Qingchan had never seen such a shameless young man. She leaned towards Ling Xiao. Qiu Qinghan's eyes flashed with joy. What a pretty maid. What's your name again? Xiao Ling. Ling Xiao smiled indifferently. However, he was muttering in his heart. Should he kill or subdue her? Young Master Xiao is so lucky. Looking at young Master Xiao's appearance, your attire, you must be here to celebrate the Empress Dowager's birthday? Where are you from? Suyun City. As soon as Ling Xiao finished speaking, he felt that the entire restaurant had suddenly fallen into a deathly silence. Everyone looked at him in shock, but no one opened their mouths. Everyone knew that Suyun City was the ancestral land of the Great Xia dynasty. Now, it was the place where the previous emperor of the Great Xia dynasty resided. Was this young man tired of living? He dared to say that he was from Suyun City? However, looking at his expression, it was obvious that he was very calm. Could it be that he was an envoy sent by Xia Yong? Suyun City? Interesting. Qiu Qinghan's beautiful face froze. Her red lips curled up. For the first time, she looked at Ling Xiao seriously. Looking at him. This young man was quite handsome, and he had a faint immortal aura about him. Chapter 376. Young Master Qiu is also here to celebrate the birthday? Ling Xiao picked up a cup of wine and took a sip. A mocking expression flashed across Qiu Qinghan's face. Birthday celebration? Is she even worthy? Haha, I heard that this city is bustling with activity, so I came to travel. Ling Xiao raised his brows. Even the Empress Dowager wasn't worthy, so what status did Qiu Qinghan have? Young Master Xiao, I feel like old friends with Miss Qing Chan at first sight. I wonder if young Master can part with her? However, the cold arrogance on Qiu Qinghan's face only lasted for 3 seconds before it turned into a greedy expression. She's not my maid. She's my woman. Ling Xiao didn't say much, but Yi Qingchan and Qiu Qinghan's expressions froze at the same time. Young Master, Yi Qingchan's eyes reddened. She was clearly touched. Killing intent flashed across Qiu Qinghan's face, but it eventually turned into indifference. I see. Qinghan has been presumptuous. Your woman? If you're gone, isn't she my woman? Yi Qingchan was both quiet and moving. She was shy and cute, and her looks were unique. More importantly, haha, how could such a goddess be taken advantage of by a man? Haha, Brother Xiao, what gift did you bring for the Empress Dowager's birthday celebration? Qiu Qinghan muttered to herself. Looking at this young man's appearance, his cultivation shouldn't be too bad. Moreover, since he came from Suyun City, he might be related to the royal family. However, she didn't know whether he came to Dragon Fortune City to celebrate or to assassinate. Gift? If I go, they should give me a gift. Ling Xiao sneered. Qiu Qinghan looked at him meaningfully. Needless to say, this kid's serious manner of bragging was quite interesting. However, how long could he keep up this pretense? All right, Qing-chan, we should go. Young Master Qiu, see you in the future. Ling Xiao stood up, held Yi Qingchan's hand, and walked out of the restaurant. The smile on Qiu Qinghan's face instantly turned gloomy. Demons have appeared in the western frontier. Xia Yong of Suyun City has died. Ling Xiao? Ling Xiao? That devil pride of the eastern frontier, who single-handedly slaughtered 3,000 disciples of a holy land? Am I overthinking things? But should I report this to that lord? In a dark corner of the street, Ling Xiao casually threw an armored guard onto the ground. With a snap of his fingers, the guard was instantly incinerated into nothingness. Interesting, very interesting. The Great Xia is indeed a land of dragon luck. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with joy, while Yi Qingchan just stood quietly to the side, not saying a word from beginning to end. She could roughly tell that Ling Xiao's actions did not seem to have anything to do with the righteous path. But so what? The one she loved was the young master. What was the difference between good and evil? The palace of the Great Xia dynasty was bustling with activity. For a Shijiang dynasty like Great Xia, they naturally had many subordinate dynasties. The 8 dynasties naturally had their enemies and allies. In particular, the new emperor of the Great Xia dynasty had usurped the throne. So, although many orthodox dynasties looked down on him, why wouldn't they want to control him and use him as a weapon? The crown prince of the Great He dynasty, He Qi, brings a 1,000-year-old blood ginseng to congratulate the Empress Dowager on her 100th birthday. The crown prince of the Yan Qing dynasty, Yan 38, brings a pair of deep-sea jasper corals to congratulate the Empress Dowager on her 100th birthday. The second prince of the Great Qi dynasty, Qi Deqiang, brings a Dao artifact, the 8 trigrams heaven and earth bell, to congratulate the Empress Dowager on her 100th birthday. The main hall of the palace was bustling with people. After hearing the words of the guard outside the hall, the entire palace fell into a dead silence. Give the bell? Was this the main point? Of course not. If it was an ordinary person who gave a bell to a birthday banquet, it would have been cold by now. But was this person an ordinary person? The second prince of Great Qi. Of the 8 dynasties of the western frontier, Great Qi was one of the top 4 dynasties. If it was in the past, their strength would be similar to the Great Xia dynasty. But now, the Great Xia dynasty naturally could not be compared to them. Moreover, it was a Tao artifact. As expected of a prince of a dynasty, he was so generous. So it's the second prince of Great Qi. Second prince, please invite him in. At the top of the hall, Xia Xing's eyes froze. Although his eyes were slightly dark, there was a trace of enthusiasm on his face. Beside him, an old lady with snow-white hair sat quietly. On the other side, there was a beautiful woman in her 40s, wearing a golden crown and a phoenix robe. It was the Empress Dowager and Empress Dugu Qingfeng. Below the great prince, 3 princes and a princess sat at the head of the table. Except for the first prince, Xia Feng, who was not present. The 4th prince, Xia Sun, and the 5th princess, Xia Yanran, were born of concubines. The 2nd prince and the 3rd prince were born of the empress. The 4 of them were in the first stage of Paoang. Xia Feng's cultivation was the strongest, at the late stage of Paoang. The remaining 4 were in the middle stage of Paoang. Xia Feng is really getting more and more unruly. He didn't even come back for the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet. Is he looking down on His Majesty and the Empress Dowager? The Empress snorted coldly and said calmly. Xia Feng was a great contributor to their bloodline's achievement of the 9 and 5 position. He was also the strongest contender for the position of Crown Prince. However, he was not the Empress's son. The latter would definitely not let go of any chance to suppress him. Haha, why do you have to be so calculative with him, Empress? It's not like you don't know Feng Er's temper. He's focused on the Tao and doesn't even care about the throne. A few days ago, he said that he took Shuang Er to look for an ancient site. I'm afraid he won't be back for a while. Emperor Xia shook his head and laughed softly, but there was a trace of darkness in his eyes. This first prince of his was indeed getting more and more mysterious. Sometimes, even he felt like he couldn't see through him. However, it was fortunate that he really didn't seem to care about the royal power. If not, Diqiang greets Emperor Xia, Empress Dowager and Empress Dowager. Below the main hall, a golden-robed figure slowly walked over. He bowed towards Emperor Xia and the others, but his eyes glanced at Xia Yanran discreetly. The 5th princess of the great Xia dynasty was a famous prideful girl in Shijiang. It wasn't that her cultivation was strong. It was just that she was beautiful and had a gentle personality. She was really a good match. However, it was said that such a good match had married a mortal with no background 3 years ago. He didn't know if Emperor Xia's brain was filled with sh*t. He didn't use such a good marriage tool for a political marriage and instead gave it to a useless person? A trace of coldness flashed past Qi Diqiang's eyes. However, this scene naturally didn't escape the eyes of Emperor Xia and the others. Second prince, please dispense with the formalities and have a seat. Emperor Xia furrowed his eyebrows slightly, but his heart suddenly sank. Xia Yanran was his daughter. However, her marriage back then was set by an old ancestor of Xia Xing's bloodline who had already passed away. It was said that, if someone came with the keepsake, Xia Yanran would be married to him. The old ancestor didn't say the reason in detail. At that time, Xia Yanran had just been born and Xia Xing's bloodline had yet to achieve the position of emperor. Therefore, no one felt that this was inappropriate. However, Xia Xing didn't expect that 3 years ago, there really was a young man in dire straits who walked in front of him and took out the keepsake that the old ancestor had mentioned. Xia Yanran rejected it, and Xia Xing was actually a little unwilling as well. However, when he thought of the old ancestor's instructions before he passed away, he still agreed to their marriage in the end. 3 years had passed in a flash. This son-in-law who came to marry into the Xia family kept a low profile. No matter how Xia Yanran and her mother mocked him, he endured it. However, in this way, the name of the abandoned son-in-law of Great Xia was known to everyone. However, he didn't know if this abandoned son-in-law would come out and embarrass himself today. Ha ha, Emperor Xia, I actually have another purpose for coming this time. My Dachi wants to form an alliance with Great Xia, so I was sent here to see Emperor Xia's sincerity. Although Qi Deqiang's words were directed at Emperor Xia, his gaze kept drifting towards Xia Yanran. Hearing this, Emperor Xia and Dugeho looked at each other. Although they were slightly unhappy, they had some guesses. Dachi was at its peak and was one of the top 8 empires. Although this second Prince Qi's tone was arrogant, he had the right to be arrogant. If they could form an alliance with Dachi, the turbulent situation of Great Xia would definitely stabilize. However, looking at second Prince Qi's intentions, he probably didn't just have the intention of forming an alliance. Xia Yanran did marry that useless person, but it was said that she had always been pure and hadn't lost her chastity. If, this matter could be done. Chapter 377. Second Prince, let's talk about this in detail later. Try my Xia dynasty's wine first and see if it suits your taste. Emperor Xia nodded with a smile and looked at Xia Yanran meaningfully. A trace of fear flashed past the latter's eyes, with a trace of humiliation. How could she not see the lust in Qi Deqiang's eyes when he looked at her? And from his tone, he wanted to use the alliance to threaten her father. But Xia Yanran did not like her current husband and hated her great-grandfather for giving her this marriage for no reason. However, she was already a married woman after all. If she married someone else, how would the entire Shijiang see her? Greedy and vain? Shameless and licentious? The current Xia Yanran had already seen through the secular world and only wanted to cultivate. So, in the past 3 years, she had not even been in the same room with that person, let alone in the same bed. In the emperor's family, a woman's marriage was a means of power. Xia Yanran understood, but she was still unwilling. Especially her sisters who had married the crown princes of other countries. Every time they returned to court, they would deliberately show off and make things difficult for her, making Xia Yanran feel indescribably annoyed. We'll do as you say, Emperor Xia. However, I still have something to do and will leave the Xia dynasty tomorrow. Emperor Xia, don't make me wait too long. Qi Deqiang smiled faintly, looking as if he had a card up his sleeve. He did not believe that Emperor Xia would not understand what he meant. As for Xia Yanran, he already had 13 concubines, but none of them were as charming as this woman. It was not a big deal to marry her and treat her as a plaything. Yanran, come with me. Emperor Xia got up and walked towards the back of the palace. Xia Yanran's heart trembled, but she did not dare to refute and followed Emperor Xia into the back of the palace. Yanran, haven't you always been unhappy with your marriage? At this moment, Emperor Xia no longer had the sternness on his face, and there was even some affection. Beside him stood a beautiful woman in luxurious clothes. Her face was enchanting, her eyebrows slender and slightly mean. It was Xia Yanran's mother, Su Huarong. Father, Yanran is now focused on the Tao and is not greedy for worldly affairs. I only hope to become a general soon so that I can share your burdens. Xia Yanran's expression was cold as she bowed deeply. The meaning behind this was self-evident. As expected of my good daughter. I am very gratified that Yanran has such a heart. However, Yanran, your marriage agreement was set by the old ancestor of my bloodline. Actually, I have a rough guess that the old ancestor must have made some sort of oath with ancestor River Feather. However, the Xia Emperor's eyes suddenly flashed with a hint of coldness. By now, you and that River Feather have been married for 3 years. You can be considered to have fulfilled your vows. However, that piece of trash has neither talent nor background. How can she be worthy of my son? I don't mind annulling the engagement. Father! Xia Yanran's pretty eyes widened, her pretty face filled with sadness and anger. Although the Xia Emperor's words sounded as if they were being considerate towards her, it was still for the sake of the alliance with the great Qi Empire. However, if she were to break the engagement and marry into Daki, she would lose her freedom, let alone her status. Qi Deqiang was notorious in the western border for being extremely lecherous. He had toyed with countless innocent girls to death. It was said that he had a lot of eccentricities and was the son of the Empress of Daki, so every woman that he fancied had an extremely tragic fate. River Feather was useless and cowardly. Even the servants in the palace dared to make fun of him. However, he would only smile warmly and ignore them every time. Every day, he would personally prepare a medicinal bath for her. Even Xia Yanran did not recognize some of the spiritual materials he used. However, after soaking in the medicinal bath he prepared, Xia Yanran's cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. In just 3 short years, she had caught up with her brothers. Of course, with Xia Yanran's understanding, she would never attribute all the credit to the medicinal bath. In her mind, it was most likely the result of her not having the mood to play anymore and cultivating in the palace in the past 3 years. Xia Yanran looked down on River Feather. However, in these 3 years, she could feel that the piece of trash really liked and cared about her. However, every time Xia Yanran asked about his background, he would always brush her off with the words "no family." No family? Did King jump out from a rock? And anyone who could be related to the Xia family's ancestor was definitely not an ordinary cultivator. However, this River Feather did not have any spiritual energy at all. In these 3 years, he had never stepped out of the palace and did not look like someone who had secret. Why would I suddenly think of him? What does his identity have to do with me? Yanran? Su Huarong touched Xia Yanran's arm softly, some worry in her eyes. Father, I won't break the engagement. I won't marry that Qi Deqiang either. Father, you should know his character, right? He's a scum, I slap. Before Xia Yanran could finish speaking, Emperor Xia suddenly raised his hand and slapped her ruthlessly. How dare you? Do you think that you can decide your marriage by yourself? Can't you see the current situation in Xia? Emperor Xia looked at Xia Yanran deeply before he turned and walked towards the palace. Consort Hua, someone reported recently that you've secretly accepted the treasures of the officials. Why, do you want to try the taste of the cold palace? Emperor! It's just a rumor. Su Huarong's face paled immediately and she knelt down in the palace, crying bitterly at the departing figure. She understood that Emperor Xia was warning her. If Xia Yanran was obedient, all of this was nothing. However, if Xia Yanran was not obedient, her ending would not be as simple as being in the cold palace. Now that Xia was in turmoil, if they could get the alliance with Qi, the world would be stable. There was no need to consider a princess in exchange for an alliance with a dynasty. Moreover, it was a princess who was already married and useless. Yanran, do you want to kill me? Su Huarong knelt in front of Xia Yanran, snot and tears running down her face. Imperial Mother, do you have the heart to see me carry the reputation of a greedy, vain, and shameless slut? That Qi Deqiang already has 13 concubines at such a young age. If I marry him... Xia Yanran closed her eyes, tears falling from them. Her fate seemed to have never been in her own hands. River Feather, why aren't you the crown prince of the dynasty and the heir of the ancient sect? That way no one would dare to force me. Yanran. However, he is Deqi's second prince and the son of Deqi's empress. It's better for you to marry him than to stay by that useless River Feather. How could Su Huarong care about Xia Yanran's happiness? If it wasn't for River Feather's incompetence, would she have taken the spirit treasure of a minister for her own use? Even those princes and concubines lived 100 times better than her. How could Su Huarong not be jealous? Mother, if you don't agree, I'll die in front of you today. You can stay by River Feather's side. With that said, Su Huarong suddenly stood up and bumped into a stone pillar. She naturally knew her daughter's temper very well. Indeed, this crying, throwing a tantrum and seeking death method was still useful. Xia Yanran's figure flashed, and she pulled her into her arms, tears falling from her eyes in despair. Mother, I promise you. I promise you. Yanran, you said it yourself. You can't go back on your words. When we return to the main hall later, go to second Prince Qi's side and communicate with him. Let your father know your feelings. A smile appeared on Su Huarong's lips. She stood up and pulled Xia Yanran towards the main hall. Chapter 378. In the main hall of the Great Xia Palace, Emperor Xia tasted the tea in his hand with a dark gaze. Xia Yong was dead, so his biggest problem should have been solved. However, for some reason, he felt even more uneasy in his heart. It was as if something big was about to happen, but he could not find any clues. Happiness came too suddenly? Or was it an instinctive worry of a thief? Go! At this moment, Xia Yanran walked out from the back of the hall, and under Consort Hua's gaze, she walked towards Qi Deqiang. Second Prince, are you used to the wine of the Great Xia? Although Xia Yanran had a smile on her face, the redness in her eyes was obvious. However, seeing this scene, the corners of Emperor Xia's mouth curled up into a smile. Am I thinking too much? As long as I can form an alliance with Great Qi, even if that Xia Yong is not dead, what can he do? Ha ha ha, so it's the fifth princess. I've long heard that there are two beauties in Great Xia, Princess Yanran and the grandson of the preceptor. In my opinion, Princess Yanran is better. With a beauty accompanying me, this wine is naturally to my taste. Qi Deqiang laughed crazily. He did not care if Xia Yanran was sincere or not. After tasting it, he would be sick of it. It was said that although this fifth princess was married, she was still a virgin. So, even if she was unwilling, wouldn't it be more fun to resist? Second Prince, you're exaggerating. Sister Shuang is my eldest brother's fiancée. How can Yanran compare to his fortune? Xia Yanran sighed softly. To be honest, she envied Xia Yanran. Although Xia Feng might not be able to become the crown prince, he was loyal and had always been good to Qiao Shuang. And no matter his status or talent, Xia Feng was the best in Great Xia. Many girls were willing to be by his side. Sigh. If River Yu could be half as good as her brother, how would she have fallen to such a state? If her eldest brother was here, her father might not have forced her today. He was the only person in Great Xia who did not hate River Yu and often drank and chatted with him. Ah, eldest brother, you're such a warm and upright person. Humph, that useless River Yu said this morning that he went to prepare a gift for the Empress Dowager. It must be an excuse. He didn't even have a single spirit stone on him, so how could he have a spirit treasure with a hammer? Hopefully, he wouldn't embarrass himself again today. Meanwhile, at the border of the Great Xia, in the depths of a barren mountain, a spiritual light suddenly shot into the sky and evolved into a seven-colored mystic light. One look and one could tell that a supreme treasure had appeared. Big Brother Feng, there really is a treasure appearing. At the edge of the ancient forest, where the spiritual light appeared, a woman in white opened her eyes wide. There was shock, joy, and excitement on her face. The girl looked to be about 16 or 17 years old. She had an elegant face and fair skin. Her bright eyes contained an immortal charm. It was the grandson of the Great Xia dynasty's imperial advisor, Qiao Shuang. A young man in a black python robe stood by his side with his hands behind his back, and his gaze was indifferent. Haha, Shuanger, when have I ever lied to you? I've already discovered this remnant long ago. There's an ancient treasure hidden within it. You and I have already been engaged for 5 years. How about I use this treasure as a betrothal gift and marry you? A gentle look appeared on Xia Feng's face as he looked affectionately at the girl beside him. Of course, he was greedy for the throne. Although he would never be trapped in a single dynasty for the rest of his life, his cultivation level was still low. The position of the emperor had its own uses since his cultivation level was still low. The reason why he kept a low profile was because he wanted to accumulate power in secret. If he married Xiao Shuang and had the help of the son of Zhenyuan Count Zhongyi, the great Xia would be able to obtain something. And this was only the beginning of his long immortal journey. As for today, how could he forget the Empress Dowager's birthday? However, if he went, it would inevitably attract the Empress' suspicion. If he didn't go, it would give her a reason to suppress him. Naturally, it would also lower her guard. By then, Brother Feng. I'll do as you say. Xiao Shuang blushed and lowered her head slightly as if she didn't dare to look into Xia Feng's eyes. Then what are we waiting for? Shuanger, let's go get the treasure now. Xia Feng smiled faintly. He held Xiao Shuang's hand and was about to walk towards the spiritual light. By the way, Brother Feng, today is the Empress Dowager's birthday? Xiao Shuang seemed to have suddenly thought of something, and a look of panic flashed across her eyes. Before she left, her grandfather had told her to come back as soon as possible. But it seemed like she still missed it. It's all right. There's an immortal Ganoderma that's full of vitality in this relic. When we give it to the Empress Dowager, I'm sure she'll understand our good intentions. This, Brother Feng, how did you know there was a treasure inside? Shuanger, you forgot that I learned the art of divination before. In the palace, as Xia Yanran sat beside Qi Deqiang, the atmosphere in the main hall immediately became lively. The princes and ministers intertwined their cups and were very harmonious. However, there was a trace of mockery in their eyes when they occasionally looked at Xia Yanran. As expected, she usually pretended to be too pure, but was still greedy for vanity. Reporting, Your Majesty, outside the hall. Someone said that he came from Suyun City to congratulate the Empress Dowager. He also brought a gift. At the entrance of the hall, a guard suddenly bowed and held a four-cornered shrine box. The originally lively main hall instantly fell silent. A faint smell of blood quietly spread out. Emperor Xia's eyes froze, and a guard immediately held a knife. Bring it up. From Suyun City? Could it be Xia Yong? He really didn't die. However, when the guard walked into the hall, he fell to the ground. No one knew if it was because he was terrified or his body was weak. The shrine box in his hand fell to the ground and a head rolled out. Screams rang out immediately, and even the century-old Empress body almost turned weak and died. But, at this moment, the Xia Emperor's eyes suddenly widened. The expression on his face was first one of shock, but it quickly turned into one of wild joy. Because he saw that the head that rolled out was actually Xia Yong's. The head of his good brother, Xia Yong, the rightful heir of the great Xia dynasty. Moreover, there was a golden seal beside the head, and it was the true dragon seal that symbolized the great Xia dynasty's imperial power. The person who obtained this seal would obtain the great Xia dynasty's dragon luck and the hearts of everyone. Who is it? Who sent such a big gift to me? Quick! Invite him in. The guard who fell to the ground was already crawling on the ground, and his eyes were filled with death. However, when he heard the excitement in Emperor Xia's voice, he was stunned for 3 breaths of time before he scrambled out of the hall. Emperor Xia had already stepped forward and picked up the head. After confirming that there was no mistake, he threw it to the guard beside him, and then picked up the golden seal and laughed loudly. It's the will of the heavens. It's the will of the heavens. Now, who dares to say that I'm a fake emperor? The great Xia dynasty is my Xia Xing country. Everyone in the hall immediately stood up and bowed to Emperor Xia. Congratulations, Emperor, for obtaining this dragon seal. Quick, come with me to welcome the noble. Emperor Xia took a step forward and was about to rush out of the hall, but at this moment, a white-clothed figure suddenly walked over slowly from the direction of the hall's door. He was handsome, and his face was covered in golden radiance, and there was an immortal aura circulating around him. His black eyes that were exposed outside the immortal radiance seemed to contain starlight, and one would be immersed in them with a single glance. Beside him, a young girl in green clothes was half a step behind. Her beautiful face was like a fairy from the ninth heaven, and it was breathtaking. What a pair of immortals! Chapter 379. You are. Emperor Xia stopped in his tracks and looked at the two people in front of him in surprise. In the hall, countless young men and women had an infatuated expression on their faces. Originally, Emperor Xia thought that the person who could kill Xia Yong must be an ancient existence. But looking at the two of them, they seemed to be 16 or 17 years old. Could it be that they were the disciples of some ancient existence? Xia Xing, are you satisfied with my gift? Ling Zhao's expression was calm and had a sense of detachment. His gaze swept across the hall, and a hint of surprise flashed across his eyes. All the famous geniuses in Great Xia should be here for the Empress Dowager's birthday, right? Why was there not a single son of destiny? This was not right? However, when he saw Xia Yanran, who was beside Qi Deqiang, Ling Zhao's eyes froze for a moment. That second Prince Qi looked like he was the best in the world from his nose to his eyes. It was obvious that he was a villain. And Xia Yanran's eyes were red, and it was obvious that she had just cried. Thinking back to the situation, he learned from the soul of the great Xia guard, it was most likely that this princess's husband had not arrived yet. After all, the son of destiny was always used to being the last to appear. If not, why would the ridicule be so overwhelming if everyone was not present? It seemed like the show had not started yet. Moreover, although Xia Yanran did not have a lot of luck, she had a little bit of luck. Of course, if she did not have any luck, how could she have met the son of destiny? Most importantly, Xia Yanran's physique was a little mysterious. Extreme Yuan spiritual body. It was said that this woman's spiritual energy was gathered in that drop of blood. Once she lost her virginity, her spiritual energy would spread out and help others. Amazing! This was a top cultivation furnace. Although it was a one-time use, it was not bad to be in the middle stage of Paoang. Most importantly, according to the usual practice, Xia Yanran most likely had not done the deed of husband and wife with that abandoned son-in-law. He just did not know if that abandoned son-in-law knew anything about medicine and if he could see Xia Yanran's special physique. Ling Xiao guessed that there was an 80% chance that he knew. As for why he didn't take the chance to take Xia Yanran, don't ask, asking was true love. After all, only villains would do everything for their own benefit. He was the son of destiny, after all, so his character had to be upright and loyal. How dare you? Is the name of the celestial emperor something that a hammer like you can call out? Suddenly, a loyal minister in the hall shouted angrily. However, Ling Xiao only glanced at him coldly, and a dragon talisman suddenly appeared in his hand. As for Emperor Xia and the other members of the Xia clan, their expressions instantly became sluggish. Then, under the dumbfounded gaze of everyone, his legs went soft and he was about to kneel down. Greetings to the Dragon King. No, greetings. Sir. Alright, get up. Ling Xiao waved his hand lightly, and a wisp of emperor's might rippled quietly, lifting Emperor Xia's body. He then lifted his foot and led Yi Qinchan into the palace. Gulp. Truth be told, right now, the Xia Emperor's face was somewhat grim, somewhat fearful, and somewhat shocked. In short, it was very complicated. That dragon talisman, the juniors of the Xia clan and outsiders did not recognize it, but he recognized it. It was the inherited nation weapon left behind by the ancestor of the Xia clan, Xia Chen. It contained a wisp of imperial might that could not be wrong. He also felt the Emperor's aura on this young man's body. But, ancestor, you have ascended for so many years, yet your cultivation has not improved at all? Damn! You are a piece of trash. Of course, Xia Xing only dared to say this in his heart. Otherwise, if he said it out loud, today's birthday would be the anniversary of his death. Quick, quick, drag that loyal minister out and behead him. Emperor Xia turned his head and glared at the person who shouted at Ling Xiao. The latter's expression froze, but before he could refute, he was carried out of the palace by 2 guards with a dumbfounded expression. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and cough this lord, make way. Emperor Xia walked to the front of the palace, kicked the empress, and ordered people to carry the empress dowager down the hall. Then, he respectfully said to Ling Xiao, Lord, please. You can continue. Don't pay too much attention to me. Ling Xiao sat on the throne and looked at everyone in the palace with a gentle gaze. Don't pay too much attention to you? You have already chased the birthday boy to the palace. How can we still pay attention to you? Who is this young man? Why is Emperor Xia so humble? Just now, he seemed to have almost knelt down to this young man? A 16 or 17-year-old young man. When did such a powerful person come to the western border? Instantly, everyone was guessing in their hearts, but in the end, they could not think of who was worthy of such honor. One of the 8 dynasties, Cold Moon's celestial palace? Even if the master of the celestial palace came, she would not be so dignified. Unknowingly, everyone felt a little depressed. As for Xia Yanran and the other girls of the great Xia clan, besides feeling depressed, there was also a trace of indescribable admiration. This was the so-called person of destiny, right? The emperor bowed his head, and his immortal bones were made by heaven. Most importantly, this mysterious young man's gaze was extremely gentle, and there was no trace of arrogance in it. Such a person was simply the role model of a good match. It was no wonder that even that fairy-like girl was willing to stand beside him and play the role of a servant girl. For such a young man, I would even be willing to be a servant girl accompanying him in bed, let alone a servant girl. There were even some geniuses who were secretly planning how to lick this mysterious young man's boots without leaving a trace. Reporting, Your Majesty, the prince consort is here. At this moment, a report suddenly sounded from outside the palace. Ling Zhao's eyes narrowed slightly, but the corners of his lips curled up slightly. Our dethroned son-in-law is here. Oh? Let him in. Emperor Xia and the others brought over small stools and sat in front of the palace. At this moment, the new emperor of the great Xia clan was feeling uneasy, excited, and slightly gloomy. He had stolen the great Xia clan's territory. Would the ancestor blame him for suddenly descending? However, since he had brought Xia Yong's head to congratulate him, he must have acknowledged his identity. Could it be, or all of a sudden, Emperor Xia thought of a possibility. Could it be that Xia Yong courted death and disturbed the ancestor in the ancestral land of the Xia clan and was killed? Yes, that must be it. However, he didn't know why the ancestor had descended to the lower realm this time. Could it be that the ancestor had come to help him unify the Shijiang and achieve eternal hegemony? Your son-in-law, Jiang Yu, greets Your Majesty and Empress Dowager. Outside the palace, a delicate-looking young man wearing a dark blue robe suddenly walked in. His face was filled with a gentle smile, and his eyes were deep and calm, like the starry sky in the deep sea. If it weren't for the fact that there was no fluctuation in his body, he could be called an elegant young man. In his hand was an ancient sandalwood box, and his steps were as light as the wind, graceful and vigorous. However, before he could enter the palace, the people sitting in front of the palace all revealed looks of undisguised disdain. That's right. Any Tianming, especially this model, would be greeted with a storm of ridicule the moment he appeared. However, not only was our dethroned son-in-law not angry, but he was also smiling slightly. Please, start your performance. Chapter 380. Haha, what's that in River Yu's hand? Is it a birthday gift for the Empress Dowager? Are you kidding me? He's been wearing this robe for at least 2 years, and I've never seen him change it. What birthday gift could he have? You can't say that. Maybe Princess Yenran gave it to him to show off today. That's possible. However, after today, Princess Yenran won't be his anymore. A toad wants to eat swan meat. He doesn't even know if he's worthy. Sounds of discussion resounded in the main hall. Ling Xiao calmly looked at the lonely figure standing in front of the hall with an indifferent expression. 3,000 luck, Dan rhythm, Tao of fire, late stage of Paong. Most importantly, there was a heaven and earth spiritual fire sealed in his body. As expected, a son-in-law who didn't know acupuncture, alchemy, or ancient medicine wasn't worthy of being called an abandoned son-in-law. It seemed that this River Yu knew the secret of Xia Yanran's divine body. Since he didn't eat her, he was probably using his medical skills to treat her. When Xia Yanran's constitution changed, not only would her cultivation be preserved, she might even be grateful to him. At that time, he could reveal some of his identity and show off. Wouldn't the girl be tempted? However, I don't understand. The world is so big and you're so powerful. Why do you have to stay with this woman and be humiliated by her, abused by her, ridiculed and beaten by her family, yet you don't have any resentment? Most importantly, you're so powerful, how can you resist showing off? Ling Xiao shook his head. The seal on River Yu's body was extremely mysterious. It was probably placed by an expert. If he didn't have the system, he wouldn't have noticed it. Otherwise, the villains of the Great Xia wouldn't have dared to mock him so brazenly. You should keep a low profile. If you didn't meet me, most of the people here would have been slapped in the face by River Yu. Unfortunately, it's just a Tao of fire. As for the spiritual fire, I'll just give it to Su Yan. Anyway, I'm not going to fuse with it. It seemed that the Xingzhou continent was a barren land. Even if there were monsters who had comprehended Tao laws, they would at most be of the 5 elements. Otherwise, Bai Zhishi's Tao law of the void would not be regarded as the 9-tailed clan's strongest talent in 1,000 years. Demon Body Third Revolution, he was still missing 1 Tao law. As for the surprise of the 3rd transfer, I'm really looking forward to it. As for River Feather's background, Ling Xiao had more or less guessed it. After all, there were only a few routines. He had been writing them for 5 to 6 years, and he was almost done writing them. He was either the successor of an ancient sect or a direct descendant of an imperial dynasty. His elder was once a close friend of the Xia clan's patriarch, and they were even friends who had gone through life and death together. When the 2 clans were at their peak, they had arranged marriages for their juniors. After that, the ancient sect that ancestor River Feather belonged to declined, or perhaps it was because of the struggle for the throne in the Grand Xia dynasty. He was hunted down by his enemies, and ancestor River Feather had pointed out a path for him. He had come to Grand Xia to endure patiently, and he was not allowed to reveal his talent for the next 3 to 5 years. Otherwise, he would be targeted. For this type of son-in-law, he would most likely encounter experts from his previous faction who would come to take him back to the sect or the dynasty. Second young master, the eldest young master is dead. You are now the legitimate heir. Before the old master died, he asked us to take you back to inherit the family business. In an instant you would reach the peak of your life and achieve supreme status. Would he leave? Of course not. In these 3 years, our son-in-law had already fallen deeply in love with the female lead who humiliated and abused him, and even asked him to wash her feet. Therefore, he would definitely stay, protect her, and fulfill all her wishes. Infatuation and emotional development were the criteria of a good son-in-law. As for acting pretentious, face-slapping, counterattacking, and so on, they were similar. What? Wife, you need 3 million spirit stones? Use this card to get it. I have already arranged for the manager of the trading company for you. You can't get it without an appointment? What, this card of yours? Hiss, hiss. Quick, VIP room. River Feather, the upper-class women in the city are holding a pretentious convention. They want to bring their husbands along. Can you accompany me? Although I don't want you to go, they want to bring you along. You can choose not to go. What? Do you have to go? Those with a net worth of more than 10,000 spirit stones will sit at one table. Those with a cultivation base of Paong will sit at another table. Those with a net worth of more than 100 million spirit stones, comprehended Tao laws, had heaven-defying alchemy skills, and were in the late stage of Paong will sit at another table. F***CK. I'm afraid you won't be able to sit at any table. When you meet me, Ling Xiao, you will be the one lying in the coffin in front of the banquet. Empress Dowager, today is your birthday. I have prepared a gift for you. I hope you will like it. River Feather first glanced at Ling Xiao, a slightly confused expression on his face. Then, he bowed slightly and handed the wooden box in his hand to the guard in front of him. However, her clear eyes looked towards Xia Yanran and Qi Deqiang, who was beside her, intentionally or unintentionally. Seeing him look over, Qi Deqiang pointed at the wine cup in front of him even more arrogantly. Xia Yanran immediately poured wine for him obediently, like a servant girl. No matter. Who was that young man sitting in the hall? As long as Emperor Xia was not an idiot, this Xia Yanran would still be his. River Feather? What right did a mere piece of trash have to have such a proud daughter? Oh? A birthday gift for the Empress Dowager? May I know what treasure it is? Emperor Xia's face was filled with disdain. He took the wooden box and opened it immediately. Inside was a simple stone ring with a dragon carved on it. After that, there was nothing special about it. It was actually an extremely ordinary stone ring. Pfft. In the hall, some people looked at the ancient ring in Emperor Xia's hand and couldn't help but laugh. This is a F***king carved artwork? Ha 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 ha. River Feather really didn't disappoint us. As expected of him. Hearing everyone's words, Xia Yanran's face turned even paler. I already told you not to embarrass yourself. Why didn't you listen? Stone ring? You have the nerve to give it to the Empress Dowager as a congratulatory gift? Do you think that the people of Great Xia have never seen a stone before? Insulting. This was simply an insult to father and the Empress Dowager. River Feather, this is the congratulatory gift you gave to the Empress Dowager? As expected, Emperor Xia's face gradually darkened. Especially today, in front of all the officials and envoys, this River Feather's actions were simply humiliating to him. That's right. This ring is my family's heirloom. Today is the Empress Dowager's birthday, so I will give it to the Empress Dowager. River Feather's tone was clear, as if he didn't hear the crowd's ridicule at all. As for this ring, it was indeed given to him by the clan's old ancestor before his death. He said that this ring was very precious and was an ancient item, a family heirloom. He told him to protect it strictly. Originally, he wasn't willing to take out this treasure. However, he had already heard about what happened in the hall earlier. Emperor Xia intended to marry Xia Yanran to Qi Deqiang. Like this, if he still didn't take out some of his trump cards, no one in the entire Great Xia would think highly of him. Furthermore, River Feather had studied this stone ring for 3 years, but he couldn't see how precious it was. However, why would the old ancestor, a rank 6 divine emperor, deceive him before his death? Therefore, it was probably because his cultivation wasn't high enough that he couldn't see through its mysteriousness. He did have some spirit stones and divine artifacts on him. However, what he wanted to do today was to amaze everyone. The 3-year period was about to end. The seal on his body was about to be undone. At that time, everyone who looked down on me would have to kneel before me and beg for forgiveness. As for this family heirloom, so what if he gave it to the Empress Dowager? As long as he could make Yanran happy, make the Empress Dowager pay attention to him, and make Emperor Xia change his mind, what was there to be reluctant about? Anyway, his bloodline was already dead. Whatever family heirloom was useless. River Feather clearly remembered that he had fled all the way to Great Xia. If Xia Yanran hadn't agreed to marry him, he was afraid that he would still be running for his life, struggling at death's door. Although these 3 years in the Xia Palace seemed to be filled with grievances and shame, River Feather understood that Xia Yanran actually cared about him. If not, why would Consort Hua keep asking Xia Yanran to break off the engagement, but she refused? Yanran, don't worry, these days of grievances are coming to an end. In the future, I, River Feather, will be your pride. Even if I don't have a background, with my talent in alchemy, I will definitely achieve unparalleled glory. Chapter 381. Family Heirloom? The Xia Emperor took a deep breath and nodded silently. No wonder. You're a piece of trash with no background and no cultivation. It's reasonable that your family heirloom is a stone ring. That old ancestor. What went into your head to arrange such a shameful marriage for Yanran? Fine, I'll take this chance to kill this useless son-in-law. Yanran will probably give up then, right? Phew. Emperor Xia took a deep breath and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Xia Yanran's expression froze as if she saw her father's thoughts. She hurried to River Yu's side and slapped him ruthlessly. Slap! The entire hall was silent. River Yu's eyes were also filled with surprise. Yanran Yu, I told you. Don't embarrass yourself. Why don't you listen to me? Do you have to embarrass me with you before you give up? River Yu, I'm really disappointed in you. Xia Yanran's eyes were filled with tears and despair. Her anger right now was real. Since you're a piece of trash, why don't you just be a piece of trash? Why do you have to act like others? Family heirloom? A stone ring? But she knew very well that this ring might be really precious to River Yu. If not, he wouldn't have held it so often in deep thought. He gave it to the Empress Dowager because he didn't want to be looked down upon by others. He didn't want her to be looked down upon with him. Xia Yanran understood. Even if it was a dog that accompanied her meticulously for 3 years, how could she not see it and not feel heartache? I'm sorry, River Yu. I know you love me, but we are really not suitable for each other. No, Yanran. This ring is… Hey, do you think we're blind? What's there to be proud of? Did you pick up a family heirloom from the streets? Ha 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 ha. Not necessarily, I might have bought it from selling my blood. And it's even a stone ring. It looks so old. Qi Deqiang and the others immediately mocked her. Especially when he saw the grievance on Xia Yanran's face, it made him feel an indescribable pleasure. River Feather, you actually dared to toy with this emperor. If it weren't for the fact that today is the Empress Dowager's birthday celebration, I would definitely have chopped off your dog head. Men, drag him out. Flog him 500 times and expel him from the palace. From today onwards, he is no longer the son-in-law of my Grand Xia. Emperor Xia snorted coldly, but his eyes flashed with joy. If Yanran is smart enough, she will understand that I am already being merciful by not killing him. If she didn't agree to marry Qi Deqiang, no. Your Majesty. River Feather's face paled and his eyes flashed with hatred. The seal in his body would be undone today. The spirit fire of heaven and earth, the late stage of Paoang, and the identity of a genius alchemist, gave him enough confidence to become the light of the great Xia. But now, once he was expelled, Yanran would most likely fall into the hands of that bastard Qi Deqiang. Yanran, do you believe me? If you believe me, I will wait for you outside the summer palace. Even without the identity of a princess, I can still make you be respected by the world. River Feather took a deep breath, his tone suddenly becoming inexplicably gloomy. Looking at his eyes that seemed to have become extremely deep, Xia Yanran actually wavered a little. But in the next moment, she shook her head with a bitter smile. No matter what kind of secret you are hiding, how can you fight against 2 great dynasties? Let's go, River Feather. leave the great Xia and find a quiet ancient city, far away from this troublesome place. Xia Yanran smiled, but her expression was a little sad. Originally, she thought that she had not fallen in love with him. But why did she feel an indescribable sense of loss when she thought of not having him in the future? Although sometimes she felt that River Feather might have some defects in his body. If not, these 3 years would not have been though without any needs. But his thoughtfulness, care and meticulous care had already subtly made her feel a little dependent on him. No, Yanran. If you don't leave, I won't go anywhere. No one can make us separate. River Feather seemed to have become a different person. He looked coldly at Emperor Xia in the hall. Your Majesty, the marriage agreement between Yanran and me was set by my ancestor and the Xia family's ancestor. Are you really going to ignore the agreement between the two families? Shut up. Drag him out. Emperor Xia's eyes flashed with darkness. F***ck. I am a traitor of the country. You want to talk about an agreement with me? I think you are deliberately humiliating me. No. I have to find a chance to kill this bastard and cut off Yanran's thoughts. A toad wants to eat swan meat. Princess Yanran, my wine is cold. Why don't you come back and warm it for me? Qi Deqiang smiled eerily. It was obvious that he was deliberately humiliating River Feather. Wait. But, just as the guards in the hall walked towards River Feather, Ling Xiao, who had been sitting on the throne and had not spoken, suddenly spoke softly. The corners of Emperor Xia's eyes twitched. He turned his head with a confused expression. Your Majesty, let me have a look at that ring. Ling Xiao stared at the stone ring in Emperor Xia's hand. A faint smile rose on his lips. An antique that was called a family heirloom by the destined child was definitely not an ordinary stone ring. After all, the destined child was a little crippled now, but his luck was there. This ring was most likely related to his identity and the spiritual flame sealed in his body. The reason why River Feather took it out was probably because he really did not know what it was used for. After all, inadvertently showing off was really satisfying. What? That ring appeared in the world. Young master is still alive? Pucci. He was still alive now, but it would be hard to say later. Your Majesty, this is a ring. Emperor Xia seemed to be somewhat hesitant. A wisp of soul light flashed in Ling Xiao's eyes. It actually caused the emperor of the great Xia dynasty to tremble and almost fall to the ground. His heart was filled with fear toward his ancestor. What's more, he didn't have a legitimate reason to become the emperor. This ancestor had even killed the legitimate Xia Yong. Clearly, he did not care much about bloodlines. Once he was angered, but why would his ancestor be interested in such an ordinary ring? Could it be that I misjudged it? Is this ring really a supreme treasure? It was very sudden. Emperor Xia panicked. Your Majesty. Emperor Xia bowed and handed the stone ring to Ling Xiao. The latter only sent a wisp of his spiritual energy into the ring. However, nothing unusual happened. It was the same for his soul power. Then, a wisp of spiritual flame appeared on Ling Xiao's fingertip. The dragon head carved on the stone ring suddenly lit up with a faint blood-red light. However, before it could completely light up, the wisp of spiritual flame on Ling Xiao's fingertip instantly dissipated. Oh, it is indeed an ordinary stone ring. Ling Xiao nodded. Emperor Xia and the others could no longer suppress their anger. That damned River Feather. He made me lose face in front of my ancestor again. Men! Bring River Feather. However, before Emperor Xia could finish his words, Ling Xiao's face suddenly revealed a sinister expression. So what if this is an ordinary stone ring? Since this young man said that this item is his family's heirloom, I believe that it must contain a kind of spirit, a kind of symbol, a kind of persistence. What? Do you think that this treasure is not a treasure? Amen? Truth be told, Emperor Xia was dumbfounded. After beating around the bush for so long, didn't his ancestors still say that this ring was trash? What spirit? What symbol? What use was it? So, you think that this talisman is also useless? Ling Xiao casually threw the golden dragon talisman in front of Emperor Xia. Killing intent circulated in his eyes. Suddenly, countless plop sounds could be heard from the entire palace hall. Chapter 382. Plop. The imperial palace of the great Xia dynasty was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. All the ministers, envoys, princes, and princesses stared dumbfounded at the kneeling Emperor Xia and the other princes. Their faces were filled with shock. At this moment, a golden dragon talisman flickered with golden light in front of Emperor Xia. However, it did not have the slightest bit of spirituality. From the looks of it, it seemed to be an ordinary item? SSS Sir, we are terrified. Emperor Xia held the dragon talisman with both hands. His body was faintly trembling. The great Xia dynasty has always been founded on benevolence and opened its borders with courtesy. I truly did not expect that it would fall to such a state today. River Feather, right? You are very good. I like this ring very much. I can see your sincerity. You are much more sincere and attentive than many people in this palace. Ling Xiao nodded and smiled at River Feather. The latter's malevolent expression instantly froze and turned into one of panic. Beat. The destined child is grateful to the villain and has taken the first step in courting death. Congratulations to the host for plundering 300 luck points and 3,000 villain points. Beat. The destined child has completely submitted. Congratulations to the host for obtaining additional rewards. The body of destiny has been forged to 2%. One chance to perfect the laws of Tao. Amen? The expression on Ling Zhao's face instantly turned sluggish. How could the destined child have completely submitted to him? Could it be that he had used his kindness and love to influence someone? But in this hall, other than River Feather, there were no other leaks, right? What's going on? Did the system collapse, or am I hallucinating? Just as Ling Xiao was inwardly astonished, a strange fluctuation suddenly appeared in his soul sea. Then, an unfamiliar soul remembrance appeared in his mind. At the same time, Xingzhou's central border, Qingtsang Mountain. Bai Ling's delicate body trembled as she looked at a white-haired old man before her. The old man's expression was indescribably sluggish. The fluctuations of a god-emperor quietly spread out from his body. It's actually true, it's actually true. Bai Ling seemed to be at a loss. However, in the end, a cold, killing intent emerged on her little face. Big brother Ling Xiao guessed correctly. All of this was a trap set up by the Blood Soul Holy Lord. They massacred the entire Lin clan so that I would have hatred in my heart and have no more worries, so that I could focus on killing. What a cruel method, what a cruel... Master, Brother Lin Shi, Father Lin Dong, don't worry, I will personally avenge you. Ling you, what did you do just now? After a long while, the eyes of the white-haired old man emitted a wisp of divine light. Deep within his eyes there was a flash of intense fear. Just now, the Blood Hall Saintess wanted him to open his soul palace and show him a very strange memory. He had watched Bai Ling grow up, and she was only in the state of Paoang. Therefore, he was completely unprepared. But, why did he feel a sense of helplessness as if he was being controlled by someone at this moment? Grandpa Qi, this is a secret between the two of us. Don't tell Master. Bai Ling's eyes flashed with a sinister light. Qi just nodded blankly, as if he couldn't refuse any of the girl's requests. Master, I'm afraid you don't trust me as much as Grandpa Qi, right? Bai Ling sighed. Although this kind of scheme made her feel a little disappointed. After all, the Blood Hall expert in front of her was completely unguarded and trusted her completely. But she took advantage of this point. This feeling was very bad. But no matter what, the matter of the Lin clan being massacred finally had an answer. Brother was right. No matter how evil the cultivation method was, it had to be used in different places. There was nothing to worry about when dealing with an evil person like the Blood Soul Holy Lord. However, with that person's mind, he wouldn't be as easy to deal with as Chi-E. It seemed that she had to find a few helpers in the Blood Hall first. When the time came, if the plan didn't work, she would kill him directly. In the imperial palace of the Great Xia dynasty, the dullness on Ling Zhao's face gradually disappeared and turned into a smile. Wonderful! He really didn't expect Bai Ling to so smoothly plant a soul seal on Elder Qi, who was in charge of distributing the Blood Hall's missions. In this way, didn't he know all the spies of the Blood Hall in the Xingzhou? My good sister, you didn't disappoint me in the end. Good luck. When you deal with the Blood Soul Holy Lord, I will go to Qingsong Mountain and congratulate you on becoming the new master of the Blood Hall. But before that, I can't expose myself so easily. After all, the Blood Hall Holy Lord is too sinister and terrifying. I'm not afraid of death. I just want to be your last backer. My lord. Emperor Xia didn't even dare to raise his head and kept kneeling on the ground. This scene caused the faces of everyone in the hall to be stunned. They seemed to have vaguely discovered an extremely terrifying secret. But they didn't know what it was exactly. Get up. It's a congratulatory gift, so the thought is naturally the most important. I advise you to take care of yourselves. Ling Xiao waved his hand. Emperor Xia bowed and returned the dragon talisman to Ling Xiao before turning to look at River Feather. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and give the prince consort a seat. Thank you, your majesty, thank you, my lord. River Feather raised his head and looked at Ling Xiao with sincere gratitude in his eyes. Although he didn't know who the young man in front of him was, if it weren't for him today, he would most likely have lost his life and his wife. Although Emperor Xia would regret it sooner or later, but looking at Qi Deqiang's appearance, there was an 80% chance that he would, if that happened, his 3 years of hard work would be completely wasted. And Yanran would be completely reduced to a cripple. In fact, the medicinal bath he prepared for Xia Yanran every night could not only increase her spiritual power, but also solve the problem of Xia Yanran's extreme yuan body. Ling Zhao's kindness was akin to giving River Feather a new lease on life. Beep. The child of destiny is grateful again. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 300 luck points and 3,000 villain points. My lord? You, he. Emperor Xia's eyes darkened slightly. This is my ancestor, and you call him my lord? Should I call you second ancestor? F***ck. But my ancestor obviously felt that River Feather was sincere and moved. If I continue to make things difficult for him now, I'm afraid that my ancestor will be disgusted? But the alliance with Great Qi must not be missed so easily. If River Feather took the initiative to leave Yanran and Great Xia, haha, my ancestor wouldn't blame me, right? River Feather, I'll let you be proud for a while longer. The birthday banquet was somewhat dull due to various incidents. It was only at dusk that the visiting envoys left, and before Qi Deqiang left, he looked deeply at Emperor Xia. The meaning was obvious. No matter who Ling Xiao was and why Emperor Xia bowed to him, it was Great Xia's matter and had nothing to do with him. As long as he couldn't obtain Xia Yanran, Great Xia would lose Great Qi's alliance. Emperor Xia would decide the pros and cons. River Feather, you can go back first. Xia Yanran knew that if River Feather stayed here, her father might come up with some tricks again. She hurriedly gave him a look. The latter bowed and left with the crowd. And Xia Yanran's eyes intentionally or unintentionally glanced at Ling Xiao. There were some indescribable emotions in the depths of her eyes. Originally, in her heart, her eldest brother was the model of a celestial being. But today she realized that she was wrong. This person was the true Xing Yang that all proud women coveted. Bright, dazzling, making people feel ashamed of their inferiority. From the beginning to the end, Emperor Xia didn't open his mouth. Or rather, before he understood the ancestors' attitude towards River Feather, He didn't dare to make a conclusion. Now that there are no outsiders, let me introduce. This is. Seeing that only the descendants of Great Xia's royal family were left in the hall, Emperor Xia's face suddenly turned serious. He stood up and bowed deeply towards Ling Xiao. My ancestor of Great Xia. Chapter 383. What? Regardless of whether it was the Empress Dowager, the Empress, or the other princes and princesses, all of them were looking at Ling Xiao with shock in their eyes. They had heard of the legend of the Great Xia's ancestor, Xia Chen, countless times since they were young. He was a person of the true dragon, and on the day he became an emperor, he shattered the void and became a legend of the Great Xia. Even the half of the dragon talisman he casually threw away had become the most precious inheritance treasure of the Great Xia. And that dragon talisman was similar to the ancient ring in River Feather's hand. Even though it contained a strand of the ancient dragon's sacred aura, it was not very useful. However, that was the symbol of their ancestors' identity, the source of their Xia clan's glory. Thinking about it this way, it was no wonder their ancestor would protect River Feather. Turned out they were all people with stories. Inexplicably, when everyone looked at River Feather, there was a hint of awe in their eyes. It was just that. Their ancestor should be more than 600 years old, right? Why did this young man only look 16 or 17 years old? Who told you that I am your Xia clan's ancestor? Just as everyone was kneeling down, Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly, and a playful smile appeared on his face. Amen? Emperor Xia, who was about to kneel down, froze and turned to look at the young man in a daze. You are not our ancestor? Then how dare you come to my Great Xia to act cool? Also, where did this dragon talisman come from? Could it be a fake? Impossible. That strand of ancient dragon chi came from the same source as the dragon talisman in the Great Xia. This, your Great Xia's ancestor, was merely a dog I raised in the upper realm. He knew that a strand of my divine soul had descended to the lower realm, so he specially gave me this dragon talisman, saying that his descendants would worship me as their master. Ling Xiao smiled indifferently. His body seemed to be surrounded by immortal clouds, and the 8 types of Tao laws formed layers of divine shadows, giving off an indescribably mystical and vast feeling. Have you all heard of my true name, Great Huyo True God Pai Luo Reincarnated God? What? Emperor Xia's expression changed. He could only feel a strand of surging cold air on his skull, and he actually fell to the ground with a plop. A strand of his divine soul had descended to the lower realm to temper himself? No wonder this person's aura was only at the God-Emperor realm. If that was the case, how strong was his true body? No wonder. He would kill Xia Yong, a member of the Xia clan's orthodox lineage. Perhaps in his eyes, there was no difference between the orthodox lineage and the orthodox lineage. That's why he didn't allow me to call him ancestor. So, he is the master ancestor. What a joke. I wanted to be his grandson. In this person's eyes, I'm just the grandson of his dog. My identity is wrong. This is too frightening. Too frightening. Is this real? After all, the dragon talisman couldn't be faked, and the ascension of the ancestor to the upper realm couldn't be faked. This person must have come from the upper realm, and he has a dragon talisman in his hand. He's Xia's his Xia's. He's Xia killed Xia's dead sea. This Xia's A's. Master, hearing? So it's you, my lord. The king of the Grand Xia, Xing, pays his respects to the old celestial sovereign. Xia. Great Xia Emperor. The crowd of people from the Xia clan shouted one after another, their faces filled with excitement and shock. It was as if they had really heard of Ling Xiao's true name. Of course, I didn't come to the lower realm to covet anything. It's because all the races in the upper realm have submitted to me, and I no longer have any fun. That's why I came down with a strand of my divine soul to find the joy of conquering the world. Ling Xiao sighed. His eyes were filled with desolation. Emperor Xia and the others were even more shocked when they saw his current bitterness. All the races in the upper realm have submitted? He came down to the lower realm to find the joy of conquering the world? What kind of great joy is this? Is it possible for my great Xia to be this upper realm's dog and horse to conquer the world? When he's bored, will he give us the entire western border? See. So happy. So happy. Heavenly Lord. My great Xia. Shut up. I'll say a number. 1 year. This divine soul incarnation of mine can only stay here for 1 year. After 1 year, I want this place to become a dynasty. The world will call out my true name and receive my protection. Ling Xiao coldly shouted. The excitement in Emperor Xia's eyes could no longer be concealed. 1 year. He could only stay in this world for 1 year. In other words, what he cared about was not the world. It was the joy of conquering the world. By then, this world, when I see it, who still dares to call me a fake emperor? I, Xia Sheng, will open up the world and achieve a hegemony for all eternity. The western border will be unified. Furthermore, by then, I might even bring a few talented loyal dogs with me and ascend to the upper realm to become my servant. Seeing everyone's reaction, Ling Xiao nodded in satisfaction. Perhaps this group of Xia clan people would never have dreamed that their ancestor had indeed descended to the lower realm but had unfortunately died in his hand. As for the bloodline he left behind, since it was a deep enmity, he had to eliminate the source of the problem. Conquering the world meant that people would die. From what I see, this Xia Sheng has a short life. What? Become Sir's servants? The expressions of Emperor Xia and the others froze. This was an opportunity even greater than conquering the western border. Ascending to the upper realm, which cultivator in the Xingzhou did not dream of one day breaking the void and experiencing the true vastness of the world. In this world, the God Emperor was already a shackle, but in the upper realm, wasn't the division of realms also the division of lifespan? Heavenly Venerable, my son, the crown prince of the great Xia dynasty, Yu Tian, has the bearing of a great emperor. I am willing to let him follow Sir and become Sir's loyal servant. Suddenly, a deity overlord of the Xia clan shouted in excitement. Bearing of a great emperor? Execute. Ling Xiao frowned and said coldly. What? Everyone was stunned, especially the one who spoke. It was the great Xia prince, the third brother of the emperor Xia Zishan. How could it be executed? Now that I am an emperor, your son is nothing. Is he trying to usurp the throne? Sir, the bearing of a great emperor, the crown prince Yu Tian? I am a heavenly venerable, the one who sets the rules of the world, and your son is called Tian? I see that you are purposely targeting me. Exterminate his entire family, send the women to the border as prostitutes, castrate the old, and dismember the strong. Place their heads on the city walls to congeal and light candles. Ling Xiao coldly snorted. His tone was dignified. Behind him, immortal light seemed to scatter, revealing endless mysteries. Yes. Emperor Xia's eyes narrowed. He turned to look at King Yong, who was still standing in a daze, and sneered in his heart. Who asked you to act cool and bark? What right does your son have to be Sir's servant? If there is anyone in the Xia clan who is qualified, it is me. Besides, King Yong's cultivation was not high, but his influence was great. He had never put a fake emperor in his eyes. Originally, Emperor Xia had to rely on him when he was in the imperial court. But now, with a heavenly venerable here, Xia Zishan was nothing. No. You are not a heavenly venerable. What you are doing is no different from a demon. Ling Xiao frowned slightly. Soul light surged in his eyes. Everyone saw him looking at the deity overlord. Suddenly, a seal fell from the deity overlord's head and smashed him into pieces. Father of the sun, dead. Hiss, hiss. The entire palace fell into a dead silence. Everyone looked at the deity overlord sitting in the palace. Their eyes were filled with reverence. Killing a deity overlord with a gaze, what kind of heavenly might was this? If he did not show his little hand, it would be less shocking. If there was someone to blame, it would be Xia Zishan's high position and power. What prestige in the imperial court! In Ling Zhao's eyes, it was useless. All right, regarding this deity's identity, don't spread it out. I am afraid that once someone knows, they will take the initiative to join me. If that happens, how can I understand the joy of conquering the world? Before Ling Xiao could finish speaking, the Xia Emperor had already rushed to answer. Sir, don't worry. I understand. Other than the direct descendants of the Xia clan, no one will know about this. That's good. Oh right, are all the direct descendants in this palace? A sinister look flashed across Ling Zhao's eyes. It shouldn't be. According to what he thought, there should be a child of heaven in the Xia clan. That person should be the one who stole the 9th prince's luck. But this group of rotten fish in front of him, my eldest son, Xia Feng, is not in the imperial city. Sir, don't worry. I will call him back as soon as possible so that he can be of service to you. Emperor Xia's expression turned cold. He was afraid that Ling Xiao would blame him. Oh, I will be staying in my own world for the next few days. You don't have to send anyone to follow me. If I want to see you, I will summon you. The moment Ling Xiao finished speaking, a golden vortex appeared behind him. Within it, there seemed to be a high mountain deity palace. It was indescribably majestic. Furthermore, in the depths of the golden vortex, there was a black dragon soaring in the sky. Its terrifying dragon aura covered the world. But, the moment it saw Ling Xiao, it stuck out its tongue and revealed a fawning expression. Damn! No wonder. This person said. The ancestor of the Xia clan was a dog he raised. So, this was not a metaphor. Even a true dragon was raised in this world. What was the ancestor of the Xia clan worth? This is... At this moment, the last trace of doubt in the hearts of Emperor Xia and the others completely disappeared. Evolving a world. What kind of power was this? This kind of miracle was unheard of and unseen. Even a Saint Realm expert could not create a world of his own. Only a supreme of heaven and earth could create a world in the Soul Sea and achieve the heavenly Tao. Damn! Supreme of heaven and earth. This was actually a supreme existence. My Xia clan is going to be rich. Chapter 384. Sir. Just as Ling Xiao turned around and was about to leave with Yi Qingchan's hand, a trace of hesitation flashed across Emperor Xia's face. What is it? About the alliance with Great Qi. Actually, at this moment, Emperor Xia no longer cared about Great Qi or Little Qi. With this supreme being expert, why would Great Xia need allies? Although this supreme being's strength was only at the God-Emperor level, how could his methods be compared to ordinary people? My Great Xia does not need trash. Ling Zhao's eyes were clear as he looked deeply at Xia Yanran, a trace of inexplicable meaning at the corner of his mouth. Yes, my lord. Emperor Xia's eyes narrowed slightly, but he suddenly understood. I'm afraid that this supreme being protecting River Feather was just to test Great Xia's attitude. If we underestimated that dragon talisman, Great Xia would have perished. As for that River Feather, haha, how could a trash enter the eyes of this supreme being of heaven and earth? At this moment, Xia Yanran actually did not feel disappointed anymore. She did not know if it was an illusion, but she had a faint feeling that this supreme being of the upper realm was looking at her just now. And his gaze was somewhat inexplicable. If she could become this supreme being's maid, it would definitely be a very happy thing, right? Suddenly, Xia Yanran did not want to pursue the Tao wholeheartedly. At the same time, she also felt that this Supreme Being's words were very reasonable. Great Xia did not need trash to conquer the world. Trash? Beat. The destined daughter has resentment in her heart and the destined son has deepened. Congratulations to the host for obtaining 300 luck points and 3,000 villain points. Buzz. The world suddenly trembled, and a vast dragon aura instantly swept through the entire hall. Ling Xiao and Yi Qingchan's figures instantly appeared on the other side of the spirit spiral. A stone staircase that led to the sky appeared, leading to an ancient hall that stood at the peak of the sky. Gulp. Until the spirit spiral gradually dissipated, Emperor Xia and the rest were still lying on the ground, not daring to move at all. In the domain, Yi Qingchan suddenly covered her mouth and chuckled. She glared fiercely at Ling Xiao. Young master, you're really bad. Oh? Which aspect are you referring to? The corners of Ling Xiao's mouth curled up slightly, and there seemed to be flames in his eyes. Young master. It's daytime now, Yi Qingchan blushed, but Ling Xiao suddenly shook his head and waved his hand. The golden crow instantly descended, and a black moon hung in the sky, plunging the entire realm into darkness. It's night now. Young master. Yi Qingchan cried out in grief, but she was unable to resist. She only saw Ling Xiao's thin lips kissing her and hugging her tightly in his arms. And clouds and rain fell from the sky. Yi Qingchan's beautiful eyes were blurred. She breathed in and out cold air as her body swayed. She felt that she hadn't been happy with young master for a long time. About 4 days. Even when the heavens and earth were scorching hot, the two figures did not separate as they hugged each other to death. Young master, please have some tea. Ling Xiao sat in front of the palace and looked at the stone ring in his hand. Yi Qingchan held a cup of tea and smiled like a flower. If she had to choose, she would give up the great Tao and be willing to be one person. Young master, is there anything special about this ring? Seeing Ling Xiao's serious expression, Yi Qingchan's eyes flashed with curiosity. Of course, this is a keepsake. Ling Xiao smiled calmly. He had already figured out the path River Feather, this dethroned son-in-law, took. Since he didn't know the use of this ring, it meant that the faction behind him must have been annihilated back then. Perhaps it was because of the spiritual fire in his body, or perhaps it was because of his awakened alchemy body. In short, the person who sealed the spiritual fire in his body must have prepared a backup plan for him. As for this ring, 3 years had passed, and the seal was broken. With the power of the spiritual fire, the soul in the ring was ignited, and the person who received him would be attracted. As for the enemies who chased after him back then, with the providence of this Son of Heaven, I'm afraid that those so-called enemies have most likely been annihilated by others in these 3 years. Now, the faction behind River Feather was most likely looking for him all over the world. As for the only old ancestor who knew where he was most likely already dead. The ring was the keepsake. Oh, the spiritual fire in his body might be another layer of insurance. After all, even if someone seized the ring, how could they coincidentally have the spiritual fire? This plan was indeed thorough. However, the old ancestor of the Jiang family who set this up would never have dreamt that there was a villain called Ling Xiao in this world. If Ling Xiao wasn't in the palace today, even if River Feather gave the ring to the Empress Dowager as a congratulatory gift, Emperor Xia would most likely take it as a humiliation and throw the ring back to River Feather, banishing him from the palace. The Son of Destiny's seal was broken, and he unintentionally activated the soul seal in the ring, summoning the person who received him. He would instantly achieve a supreme status, and then use the spiritual fire and alchemy to slap the faces of the princes and emperors. This Xia family, it was fine if he didn't stay. Luck was mysterious and unfathomable. Unfortunately, he met Ling Xiao. Interesting. I just don't know who River Feather's true identity is. A cold smile suddenly appeared on Ling Xiao's face. Immediately, the spiritual fire on his fingertip flickered, and the ancient stone ring instantly turned crimson red. The soaring dragon carved on it seemed to have awakened and suddenly opened its pair of strange blood eyes. Tens of thousands of miles away, in a grand hall, a middle-aged man in a blood-red robe with a terrifying aura suddenly opened his eyes. It's the blood dragon soul ring. Young master is indeed still alive. Boom! Long ere. Follow me to the great Xia imperial capital to welcome back young master. 3 fiendish auras instantly soared into the sky and rushed towards the direction of Dragon Fortune City. They were actually 3 god-emperor powerhouses. This aura is so fast? In the realm, Ling Xiao could clearly feel an aura from the ancient ring quietly locking onto him. However, this locking didn't pose any threat at all. It was more like a kind of submission. Qin-chan, wait for me in the realm. The corner of Ling Xiao's mouth rose, and his figure instantly disappeared from the spot. On a barren mountain outside Dragon Fortune City, Ling Xiao stood with his hands behind his back on the mountain peak. His white robe fluttered in the wind, and he was indescribably free and elegant. Just like that, 6 hours later. Suddenly, the sound of wind breaking resounded at the end of the world. Only then did the young man's eyes reveal a hint of playfulness. It's here. Boom. Under the great pressure, they didn't even probe. 3 figures descended from the sky and directly stood in front of Ling Xiao. The person in the lead had red hair and black eyes. He was 8 feet tall and had a handsome appearance. His body was surrounded by blood, and he was actually a person of Dao law. The Dao law of Corpse C was obviously an expert who had experienced thousands of battles and grew up amidst slaughter. A 4th-stage god-emperor, slightly stronger than Ning Tian's. However, Ning Tian's Dao was the Dao of commanding troops, while the person in front of him was killing, slaughtering, and killing. He didn't have any luck on him. Thinking about it, such a fierce general usually didn't have a good ending. Great Qin's guardian general, Xiao Beifa, greets young master. Guardian general? Xiao Beifa? Young master? Ling Xiao's eyes narrowed slightly. His face was covered with immortal clouds, and his tone was still calm. Get up. How's my family? Ling Xiao probed. After all, he wasn't River Feather. How would he know if Xiao Beifa would recognize him? Young master. In the past, I was on a punitive expedition at the border and couldn't rush back to the imperial capital in time. That's why the scoundrel succeeded. My master died, and the Qin clan's direct bloodline were all massacred. Now, the person in charge of the Great Qin is your cousin, Qin Wushuang, the daughter of the South Protecting King. Xiao Beifa knelt on one knee and didn't get up for a long time. On the other hand, Ling Xiao couldn't help but reveal a trace of joy in his eyes. His entire family was massacred? Qin clan's direct bloodline. Also, that cousin, Qin Wushuang. She sounds like someone with luck. Wonderful. Indeed, the useless son-in-law would never disappoint. Chapter 385. How did you find me? Ling Xiao's expression was indifferent, but his tone was filled with doubt. After all, he was not the real Great Qin's young lord. This Xiao Beifa looked like a peerless, ferocious general. It was impossible to gather such a murderous aura without killing 100,000 people. With such a saber and Ning Tian's, the god of war, who in the western border could stop him? It seemed that in just a few days, 3 dynasties had already been settled. Wonderful! The unification of the western border was just around the corner. Young lord, this is the Alchemy Emperor's will. He said that he had already made arrangements for you. If the chaos is quelled, you will definitely reappear in 3 years. At that time, he will bring you back to Great Qin to inherit the throne. Xiao Beifa did not doubt him. With the ring and the aura of the spirit fire, this person was undoubtedly the young lord. Oh, how is the alchemy emperor? Ling Xiao did not know who this alchemy emperor was. Or rather, he did not expect the person behind River Feather to come so quickly. He had planned to rob that useless son-in-law clean of his providence before sending him to the afterlife. Therefore, he did not take away his divine sense and memories. However, this was also good. He could use this to trick that useless son-in-law. The alchemy emperor used a heaven-defying technique to seal the heaven-earth devil flame in your body. He also used his own cultivation to set up a method to fuse it with your bloodline in 3 years. After that, he disappeared. Xiao Beifa lowered his head slightly. He seemed to be in deep thought. Why did you not return in time during the chaos? Ling Zhao's eyes flashed with coldness. It was not that he did not think of planting a soul imprint on Xiao Beifa to check his memories and control him completely. However, he could not leave for the Great Qin Empire for now. If this person returned and someone found out about it, it would be another storm. Furthermore, this Xiao Beifa did not have any providence. Ling Xiao could not determine if he had truly submitted to him. If he recklessly barged into Xiao Beifa's soul sea, it would be dangerous if there was a trap. After weighing the pros and cons, Ling Xiao decided to be more cautious. Young lord, please forgive me. Xiao Beifa lowered his head. His tone was filled with fear. Back then, the great Qi Emperor personally led an army to invade our empire. This subject was focused on resisting the enemy and did not care about the situation in the imperial capital. Oh, so Great Qin's rebellion has been quelled? This was what Ling Xiao was most concerned about. He didn't want others to plot against him and kill him when he went to see his beloved cousin after he was done with his work in Great Xia. River Feather was the son of Heaven's mandate and naturally had the protection of the heavenly Tao. But I'm not. Don't worry, young emperor. We will exterminate the 10 families of the rebels, from the princes to the guards in the palace. We will slaughter them all. Xiao Beifa gritted his teeth as a bloody aura seemed to surge into the sky from his body, causing the heavens and the earth to lose its color. I can't return to Qin for the time being. Go back first and wait for my orders. Also, kill anyone who is related to what happened back then. Ling Xiao sneered and the immortal clouds on his face dispersed. Xiao Beifa's eyes flashed with astonishment. But then, he smiled. Young master has grown up. He had been stationed at the border all year round and had only seen River Feather once in his childhood. Although the young master's appearance had changed a little, his decisiveness in killing was no different from the young master of the past. Yes. Looking at the 3 god emperors who came and went in a hurry, Ling Zhao's face gradually turned gloomy. Xiao Beifa didn't recognize him. But that didn't mean that the other members of the Great Qin Empire didn't recognize River Feather. Especially that cousin of his. But it was very easy to fool someone with a face. Back then, in order to avoid being hunted down by his enemies, the Pill Emperor used an extremely mysterious method to change his appearance. As for how mysterious it was, you can imagine it yourself. From Xiao Beifa's words, Ling Xiao roughly understood a few things. The Pill Emperor wasn't River Feather's father, but that Great Qin's lord. However, their bloodline had been completely wiped out. As for the Pill Emperor's identity, Ling Xiao guessed that he was most likely River Feather's master or guardian. Perhaps he knew about the uniqueness of River Feather's divine body, so he sealed the heaven and earth devil flame in his body. Wait a minute, devil flame? Ling Zhao's eyes narrowed slightly, and a smile suddenly appeared on his face. It seemed that this son-in-law who had been abandoned by the heavens had some other uses. Seizing luck and carrying the small pot on his back. Cousin, I'm standing right in front of you. How much do you think I look like in the past? Dragon Fortune City, Huayuan Palace. This place was Xia Yanran and River Feather's bedroom, adjacent to the palace. In the main hall, Xia Yanran looked at River Feather with a dark gaze, and there was an indescribable disappointment on her face. Although that lord from the higher domain finally spoke and resolved River Feather's embarrassment. But River Feather, you've really embarrassed yourself today. You actually gave a stone ring to the Empress Dowager as a congratulatory gift? You've really disappointed me too much. Xia Yanran clenched her teeth, especially when she thought of that supreme existence's gaze on her. Strangely, the more River Feather looked at her, the more he disliked her. Yanran, you've really misunderstood me. That ring was given to me by an elder before he passed away. He's a 6th grade god emperor, how could he lie to me? I guess they must have not seen the ring. Slap. Before River Feather could finish speaking, Xia Yanran slapped him directly. River Feather, can't you learn from that lord and be more honest and low-key? If you don't, then you don't. Why do you have to pretend? Do you think you can fool the whole world just because you fooled me? Xia Yanran sighed deeply, and her expression darkened even more. She understood that River Feather actually wanted to prove himself and let everyone in Xia know that he was not useless. But you should at least take out some decent spiritual treasures. Thinking of that stupid stone ring, the anger in Xia Yanran's heart could not be quelled. Yanran, you're right. That young master is indeed upright and honest. I'm also very grateful to him. But I... 5th Princess, His Majesty has an order. Just as River Feather gritted his teeth and was about to tell Xia Yanran everything, an old eunuch suddenly walked in from outside the hall. 5th Princess Xia Yanran, listen up. His Majesty orders you to go to the capital tonight to manage the relay station. Deqi's 2nd prince has something to discuss with you. The old eunuch glanced at River Feather coldly, and a dark smile appeared on his old face. What? River Feather and Xia Yanran froze at the same time. Especially the former, there was an inexplicable fire burning in her eyes. 5th Princess, the carriage to the relay station is right outside. Huayuan Palace has also been guarded by guards. If you still don't come out in 2 hours, I'll have to call someone to invite you over. Why don't you take this opportunity to say goodbye to the prince consort? After he finished speaking, the old eunuch did not forget to mock River Feather. Prince consort, be content. You've been living off women for the past 3 years. If you don't scram now, I'm afraid your head will be the one to roll. You! River Feather gritted his teeth. 2 hours was enough. By then, the seal in his body would be broken and his talent would be revealed. The Emperor of Xia would know who he should lick. However, Master had said that after 3 years, if the rebellion in Deqin was quelled, someone would come to bring him back to the capital. He wondered if there would be a day when he would become an emperor. If there was, I'll make everyone who looks down on me kneel in front of me. River Feather, you can go. Xia Yanran's eyes were slightly red. It was not because she could not bear to part with River Feather, but once she served Qi Deqiang, she would completely lose the chance to become that supreme existence's maid, right? Sigh, maybe this is my fate. No! Yanran, don't worry. 2 hours is enough. You'll be fine. A trace of darkness flashed past River Feather's eyes. However, the moment he finished speaking, slap. Chapter 386. Yanran, why did you hit me? Could it be that you... A trace of panic flashed past River Yu's face. The reason why he was so determined to stay in Xia Palace was not only to save his life, but also because of Xia Yanran's love for him. Although that love was hidden, River Yu could feel it. But why did she hit me? Did she not want her man to be an indomitable existence? A mere 2nd prince of Deqi. River Yu, do you still not understand? Father is already determined to form an alliance with Deqi. If I reject him now, not only you, my mother will die too. As a couple for 3 years, let me give you a piece of advice. Just be a good-for-nothing. Don't think about becoming a great emperor overnight and being respected by the world. How can you become a great emperor in 2 hours? Or can you prove to father that you are more valuable than that second prince of Deqi? Xia Yanran's eyes shone with tears. She was too disappointed. This river you was still trying to act cool at this time. Did that sixth stage great god elder of yours give you other spiritual treasures? Or can you break through to the divine general realm in 2 hours and prove to the world that you are a monster? Or have you been hiding your identity as a descendant of the great emperor? Xia Yanran laughed out of anger. Her fate was already decided. Other than that supreme existence, even the heavenly emperor would not be able to change it. Yanran, River Feather was stunned for a moment, but he soon understood what was going on. Wasn't the reason why Xia Yanran hid him and humiliated him a kind of hidden love? Right now, she was probably in despair. And today in Xia Palace, if it was not for that righteous young lord, he would have been killed by Emperor Xia. Yanran's actions were to protect me. She forced me to leave to prevent Emperor Xia from making things difficult for me. My silly princess, you have suffered in these 3 years. From today onwards, I, River You, swear that I will make you the pride of Xia. Because you have me, the husband of such a peerless genius, the ultimate talent in alchemy, the spiritual fire that a 6th stage great god expert sealed with his entire life's cultivation. No matter which one it was enough to shock the world and become a peerless genius. Yanran, don't be afraid. Actually, is Princess Yanran inside? Just as River Feather lowered his head, a smile gradually appearing on his lips. Just as he was about to tell Xia Yanran his identity again, a hearty laugh suddenly trailed from outside the hall. River Feather's expression froze. F***ck. Was it so difficult to act tough now? I've King endured it for 3 years, suppressed it for 3 years, just for this moment to act tough. Is it that difficult? No way. No matter who comes today, they won't be able to stop me from showing off. Yanran. Actually I am. My lord. Xia Yanran raised her head and looked at the white figure walking in slowly from outside the hall, a trace of surprise flashing in her eyes. River Feather was taken aback for a moment, but just as he was about to explode in anger, he saw that the newcomer was actually the mysterious youth who had saved him in the hall today, and the anger on his face instantly vanished. Young master! Pa! Another crisp slap rang out. Ling Xiao shook his head and smiled. Looking at the dazed River Feather, he felt a little emotional. This useless son-in-law, they were all masochists. No matter how his wife or mother-in-law made things difficult for him, scolded him, or even humiliated him, he could still endure it. Don't you think it strange? I'm clearly acting tough, but for the 3 years promise I made to my elders, I had to endure the humiliation. F***ck. Your elders didn't want you to expose your identity and talent, afraid that bad people would spy on you. But your elders told you to be a good-for-nothing? I can understand that you don't dare to offend the Xia dynasty's royal family. But why did I hear that even a dog in the Xia dynasty's palace dared to shit on your head and act coquettishly? Is this reasonable? Just to show off your identity as a useless son-in-law, not to mention the dogs in the palace, even the unruly people outside the palace would dare to point at your nose and scold you, calling you a useless son-in-law, a son-in-law who lives off a woman. Are you messing with me? You're a son-in-law after all, isn't this setting right? But he had to say, the harder he suppressed, the better it would feel when he revealed his identity. As for whether it was reasonable or not, who cared? As long as it felt good, it was over. What young master? This is. Xia Yanran glared fiercely at River Feather, before she looked at Ling Xiao shyly. It's Sir. Could it be that Sir came because Royal Father forced me to go to the relay station? That must be it. The way Sir looked at me before was very strange already. Could it be Sir? At most 17 or 18 years old, right? This was clearly a young man. How could he be an adult? River Feather's expression froze for a moment, but it quickly turned into a sincere smile. No matter who this young man was, he was an upright person worthy of his respect. Moreover, he was the only two people who were willing to speak up for him in the 3 years he was in Xia Dynasty. Especially now, his cultivation was sealed, his talent was not obvious, and he was really a good-for-nothing. Ling Zhao's actions were even more precious. "Sir, thank you for today." "Oh, it's nothing. It's nothing." Ling Xiao shook his head, his expression still indifferent. On the other hand, Xia Yanran lowered her head shyly, before she said softly, "Sir, I came to you on palace. Oh, I heard that experts from the Great Qin Empire came to Xia Dynasty's capital and seemed to be looking for someone. They were acting suspiciously, so I came to inform you." Ling Xiao turned to look at River Feather. "Where is the prince consort's hometown?" "What?" River Feather's face paled, and he almost lost his footing. At this moment, he did not doubt Ling Zhao's words at all. After all, this person's integrity had been proven. However, experts from the Great Qin Empire? F***ck. Back then, Master said that after the seal was broken in 3 years, there might be experts who would bring me back to inherit the empire. However, my seal is not broken yet. How did these people from the Great Qin Empire find me? Could it be those traitors? Right. It must be those people who wanted to kill me back then. Damn it. I can't let others know my identity, or else I will lose my life and spiritual fire. Damn it. But if that's the case, wouldn't Yanran have to Prince Consort? Prince Consort? Could it be that the Prince Consort is from the Great Qin Empire? Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly, a faint smile on his lips. Slap. Xia Yanran raised her hand, slapping the dazed Jiang Yu back to his senses. "Sir is asking you a question. Why are you in a daze?" "I'm just a piece of trash. How could I cross 2 dynasties to come here? I'm a native of the Great Xia Dynasty." River Feather laughed bitterly. "When it rains, it pours. Misfortunes never come singly. The ancients really did not lie." "Sir, Xia Yanran suddenly bit her red lips, wanting to say something but hesitating. Right now, the only person who could change her fate was the person in front of her. If he was willing to take her as a servant, her father would not dare to make her serve that second prince of Great Qi, right? "Oh, Yanran, I heard that your father sent you to discuss the alliance between the 2 dynasties with Qi Deqiang?" Ling Xiao nodded, as if he had guessed what Xia Yanran was thinking. Seeing the sudden coldness in his eyes, hope appeared in both Xia Yanran and River Feather's hearts. There was hope. Chapter 387. Sigh. "Yanran, although my identity is special, your father is the current emperor of the Great Xia Dynasty. How can he joke?" Ling Xiao shook his head and sighed softly. "However, if you don't want to follow him to the Qi Kingdom, you only need to wait for him to sign the alliance agreement. I can mention it to your father." "My lord," hearing this, a trace of disappointment flashed past Xia Yanran's eyes, followed by a trace of joy. "My lord wants me to stay in the Great Xia Dynasty?" "That's right. Although my lord is very strong, he will definitely need help if he wants to conquer the world. Qi is also a dynasty. Once we form an alliance with the Great Xia Dynasty, the western border can be obtained. In that case, I'm actually serving Qi Deqiang for my lord's great cause? Will my lord reward me? For example, taking me in as a maid?" Thinking of this, Xia Yanran suddenly felt less conflicted. She even secretly swore that she would definitely do a good job in this alliance and share her lord's worries. Beep. The destined woman has the intention to submit. Congratulations to the host for plundering 300 luck points and 3,000 villain points. My lord. River Feather gritted his teeth, the last trace of hope in his heart completely shattered. Even this lord has tacitly agreed to this? That's right. Although Emperor Xia was respectful to him, it was probably because of his strength or background. However, the imperial power of the Great Xia dynasty was still in Emperor Xia's hands. With the latter's personality, he would definitely not allow anyone to interfere with the imperial court. Otherwise, what was the use of him stealing the dynasty? River Feather was not a direct descendant of the imperial family and was not in the palace earlier. Therefore, he probably could not guess what Ling Zhao's identity meant to Emperor Xia and the rest. Moreover, he was not only considering Xia Yanran's safety now. The great Qin experts were still chasing after him and had already found Longyun City. If he caused too much trouble now, wouldn't he be seeking his own death? Forget it. This lord also said that Yanran is only going to discuss the alliance. After the matter is settled, he will let Yanran stay in the Great Xia dynasty. As for her cultivation, anyway, when the spiritual energy in my body recovers, I can refine pills and medicines. At that time, I can help Yanran cultivate again. Although she might not be able to cultivate to the peak of the immortal Tao anymore, with me, River Feather, around, who in the world would dare to bully her? Qi Deqiang, one day, I will flatten Daki, pull out your tendons, and peel off your bones to avenge today's humiliation. Beep, the child of destiny has evil intentions and has gone against the rules of justice. Congratulations to host for plundering 300 luck points and 3,000 villain points. It's about time. I'll go back first. Prince Consort, you've worked hard. Ling Xiao glanced at Xia Yanran meaningfully before he turned around and disappeared. However, Xia Yanran only bowed and there was not much expression on her face. Everything is for my lord. Everything was for the sake of Great Xia. As long as she did not have to marry Qi Deqiang and follow him to Deqi, Xia Yanran would be very satisfied. River Feather? How could a piece of trash dare to disrespect her? But she was afraid that in the future, His Excellency would no longer have any feelings for her. After all, it was dirty. Sigh. All right, River Feather, what did you want to say just now? What are you actually? Xia Yanran turned to look at River Yu. The latter's face immediately paled as he smiled awkwardly. And nothing, trash is trash. Xia Yanran glared fiercely at River Yu. If he had the slightest bit of background, her father would not have sent her into Qi Deqiang's arms. Yanran, go and come back soon. Slap? River Yu's face could be said to have been slapped to a pulp today. But our son of destiny was not angry at all. River Yu, you really disappoint me too much. Are you a man or not? Xia Yanran gritted her teeth. Especially the pain in River Yu's eyes, it made her feel an indescribable disgust. But how could River Yu not be angry? How could he not want to kill Qi Deqiang with his own hands? However, there were experts from the Qin dynasty who had arrived in Longyun City. Once he revealed his talent or attracted attention, he would definitely die. Moreover, the reason why Emperor Xia agreed to his marriage with Xia Yanran was because of the agreement between the elders of the two families. However, once the former found out that he was someone the great Qin dynasty wanted to silence, he was afraid that there was no need for others to do anything. Emperor Xia would definitely kill him to curry favor with the great Qin dynasty. In these 3 years, River Yu did not dare to ask about the Qin dynasty at all, afraid that it would lead to some speculation. But from the looks of it now, whether it was master or imperial father, the backup plans that they had prepared had all failed. What can I do? I'm all alone now, trapped in Huayuan Hall. Outside are all Emperor Xia's spies and guards, and there are also great Qin experts who want to kill me. Do you expect me to risk my life and escape with Xia Yanran? Only by living can I have the chance to slap the world in the face. If I die, don't talk about love. I won't be able to face master and father in the underworld. Yanran, don't worry, I will still love you like before. Princess Yanran, it's time. Shall we go out? A servant's voice sounded from outside the hall. Xia Yanran sighed softly and turned to leave. Yen ran. Behind her, River Yu clenched his fists tightly, murderous intent swirling in his eyes. Suddenly, a strange fluctuation spread from his body. Boom! A terrifying temperature quietly filled the entire hall. The stone floor under River Yu's feet started to crack, as if it could not withstand the high temperature. It's back! Everything is back! At this moment, River Yu suddenly wanted to cry. 3 years. After enduring for 3 years, the seal in his body finally broke, and the seal that Master had set up was a success. At this moment, he could feel that the heaven and earth spirit fire had merged with his core. What kind of terrifying talent was this? What kind of terrifying fortune was this? Furthermore, his cultivation level had increased from the Paong state to the 3rd grade divine general. In the entire Shijiang, who could reach such a realm at the age of 20? This was not the most important thing. The most important thing was that he had been ignored by the lightning tribulation. What did this mean? It meant that even the heavenly Tao did not dare to stop him from cultivating. As expected, I, River Yu, am the one who is truly blessed by the heavens. What Qin Dynasty, Emperor Xia, High Emperor, just give me 10 years. No. With my talent, I will definitely become an emperor in 5 years. At that time, I will make the Shijiang grovel at my feet. I will use your blood to pay for what I have lost. River Yu took a deep breath, and his expression gradually calmed down. After all, he still needed a period of time to grow. Before that, of course, he had to continue to endure. Amazement always bloomed at the last moment. Nether Demonic Flame, ranked 3rd on the Heaven and Earth Spirit Fire list. At the top of the hall, Ling Zhao's eyes flashed with a trace of evil. No wonder River Yu's whole family was slaughtered. Such a peerless treasure was indeed easy to attract some greed. No wonder the seal in River Yu's body broke after 3 years. Refining this flame was not something that could be done in a day or two, even if it was done by a god emperor. However, a dethroned son-in-law was really good. You are indeed here. Right at the instant River Feather was barely able to stabilize his emotions, an aged shout suddenly sounded out from above him, and it almost terrified him to death on the spot. Chapter 388. Who is it? River Feather's hair stood on end, and the spiritual light around him soared into the sky. Suddenly, he felt that he might not be able to live until the day he became a martial emperor. After all, there were guards outside the Huayuan Palace. Who could sneak in without anyone noticing? The intruder's cultivation level had most likely surpassed the martial emperor realm. Damn it! Could it be an expert from the Great Qin Empire? Otherwise, why would the Great Xia Emperor send a god emperor to kill him? After all, he was a piece of trash. Grandson, is that you? An old man in a black robe descended from the sky. His emperor's aura was vast and mighty, and it almost forced River Feather to kneel on the ground. Grandson. However, River Feather frowned slightly, and the despair on his face suddenly dissipated. He could feel that this old man did not seem to have any killing intent towards him. In fact, there was a deep sense of gratification in the old man's eyes. You. Who exactly are you? Grandson. I'm your great-grandfather. Although you don't know me, the spiritual fire in your body belongs to my family. Netherworld Demonic Flame, this aura can't be wrong. Grandson, I've finally found you. The black-robed old man was naturally Ling Xiao, who had changed his appearance. He was not the only one who knew how to use disguise pills. Of course, he did not call him Yuer because this River Feather's name was most likely an alias. It was safer to call him grandson. Yes, it was intimate and not deliberate. What? Great-grandfather? But I only have one grandfather. Moreover, didn't I die long ago? River Feather's expression was somewhat doubtful and cautious. But the other party was a god emperor. He did not need to use such methods to deal with him, right? If he was an expert sent by the great Qin Empire to kill him, he could settle the matter with a slap. Why would he need to do something superfluous? Therefore, he suddenly felt a surge of excitement in his heart. Great-grandfather! I actually have a god emperor for a grandfather? Grandson, you've worked hard for the past 3 years. It's all my fault. I was in seclusion back then and did not care about politics. That's why your father met with such a disaster. But don't worry, I've accumulated enough power over the past 3 years. I have a supreme Taoist system under my command, and I have General Xiao Bei from the Qin Imperial Palace working with me. I'm here to take you back to the imperial court and unify the country. Ling Xiao shouted coldly as the emperor's aura around him surged. What? Supreme Taoist orthodoxy? Xiao Beifa had returned? Achieve great unity? River Feather froze on the spot. Gradually, images began to appear in his eyes. Ha ha, ha 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 ha. So Master and Royal Father didn't lie to me. They really did have a backup plan. When Ling Xiao mentioned the name, Xiao Beifa, River Feather had already begun to trust this mysterious first grandpa. After all, that great general was his father's confidant and was extremely loyal. Even in private, the two of them often called each other brothers. He believed that Xiao Beifa must be waiting for him to return. He also believed that as long as he was alive, that great general would definitely be of use to him. So, the experts from the great Qin Empire that the Lord had mentioned were not here to kill him, but to welcome him back to the great Qin Empire to inherit the throne. I, River Feather, am about to become the emperor. Ha 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 ha, Qi Deqiang, Qi Delong, Qi Dongqiang, what are they in front of me? You dare to steal my woman? If I kill you, what can Great Qi do to me? F***CK. Why am I blindly thinking about it? My Yanran should be on the bed by now, right? Beat. The destined child has complete trust in the villain and is about to die. Congratulations to the host for plundering 500 luck points and 5,000 villain points. Grandpa! River Feather's eyes suddenly flashed with monstrous killing intent. Even the aura around him began to have some of the majesty of an emperor. Quick! Help your grandson to kill someone. Kill someone? Haha, grandson, don't talk about killing someone. Even if you want to kill a dragon, Grandpa will help you. Grandpa owes you too much in this life. Ling Zhao's eyes were piercingly cold. A domineering aura shot up into the sky, causing River Feather to almost cry. As expected of my grandpa. This is the majesty that a true expert of heaven and earth should have. Ah, Qi Deqiang, you must die today. You better not do anything to Yanran. Otherwise, I will definitely make you unable to enter the reincarnation cycle. No. Grandpa, you only need to help me get rid of Qi Deqiang's lackey. I will personally kill Great Qi's second prince. River Feather gritted his teeth. The enmity of stealing his wife was irreconcilable. No matter what, if he did not kill Qi Deqiang today, his Dao heart would not be satisfied. Grandpa killing Great Qi's second prince, is it okay? Of course, River Feather was still somewhat uneasy. After all, he had been a dog for a long time. Suddenly standing up, it seemed a little uncomfortable. Haha, not to mention killing the second prince, even if you want to kill Great Qi's emperor, when you return to the capital, you can send troops directly. Grandpa will accompany you to conquer Great Qi. Ling Xiao laughed coldly. What does it have to do with me who you King kill? Anyway, you will die soon. Alright. Grandpa, quick! If you are late, Yanran will be in danger. The joy in River Feather's eyes could not be concealed. He turned into an afterimage and rushed towards the station. Behind him, Ling Xiao merged into the void and followed closely behind. What a joke! How could Xia Yanran's first drop of blood be given to a minor character like Qi Deqiang? The extreme Yuan spiritual body should taste good. Grandson only cares about killing people. You don't have to worry about other things. Ling Zhao's voice sounded from the void. The smile on River Feather's face instantly brightened. After enduring for 3 years, he could finally show off to his heart's content. Of course, River Feather would probably never dream that this might be the only time he would show off in his life. In the north of Longyun City, there was a majestic palace. This was the Great Xia Dynasty's station, and also the place where the visiting envoys stayed. At this moment, in the station, many princes and important officials of other countries were looking at the woman in luxurious clothes who was walking in from outside the palace. There was a trace of ridicule in their eyes. As expected, this Xia Yanran still came. This greedy and vain woman must have come for second Prince Qi. But it was also true. If it was any other dynasty's princess, which one of them didn't marry a noble with a prominent status? But Xia Yanran, who was unparalleled in beauty, actually married that trash, River Feather. Who wouldn't have some resentment in their hearts? Second prince, Princess Yanran is here. In the most luxurious palace in the station, an old man bowed to Qi Deqiang in front of him. Oh? Quickly invite her in. Elder Fong, you should leave for a while. Don't worry, who dares to attack me in Longyun City? Besides, if something happens to me here, I'm afraid Emperor Xia won't be able to explain it. Qi Deqiang waved his hand, and the old man's figure instantly disappeared. Right at this moment, Xia Yanran walked in from outside the palace. There was a faint paleness and panic on her pretty face. Greetings, second prince. Ha, Yanran, you're here. Quickly come over. A trace of lust immediately surged onto Qi Deqiang's face. However, just as he reached out to grab Xia Yanran, the latter easily dodged it. Second prince, I'm here today to represent Great Xia to discuss the alliance with you. Why don't you sign this alliance agreement first? Xia Yanran took out a piece of golden paper from her chest. It was the one that the old attendant had given her on the way here. Sign. But, Princess Yanran, before signing, let's do some happy things, okay? Boom! However, just as Qi Deqiang finished speaking, a terrifying sound suddenly sounded from outside the station. Chapter 389. Isn't that River Feather, that trash? What is he doing here? In the relay station, many people looked at the disgraced son-in-law of the Great Xia dynasty, who had come in rage, with astonishment in their eyes. What the f***ck? This dethroned son-in-law wouldn't be so angry, right? But, you are just a trash. Even if you are angry, what can you do? Not to mention the second prince of Great Qi, it would be easy for anyone in this posthouse to kill him. Wait a minute. Something is not right. Why is there spiritual energy fluctuation on his body? This fluctuation. He is actually a divine general expert. This disgraced son-in-law of the Great Xia dynasty is actually a divine general? How is this possible? This is simply ridiculous. One must know that in the entire western border, those who broke through to the divine general realm at his age were all top-notch monstrous geniuses from some of the top dynasties. But, disgraced son-in-law? Monstrous genius? Divine general? How can these words appear on the same person? It's this kind of gaze. River Feather's expression was calm, especially when he saw the shock and fear in the eyes of the people around him. He felt incomparably satisfied. Open your dog eyes wide and look carefully. Am going to start acting cool. If it was in the past, or if his grandfather did not promise him to return to the Great Xia dynasty and become an emperor, he would not dare to kill Qi Deqiang so brazenly. But now, killing a little prince who stole my wife is not considered a crime, right? Emperor Xia, do you still need to choose whether to side with Great Qi or Great Qin? As one of the 4 upper dynasties, Great Qin has unified the world and its foundation is the most terrifying. Besides, Great Qi is only an ally. When this emperor succeeds the throne, Yanran will be the empress. Then, Great Qin and Great Xia will be one family, right? Stop. But just as River Feather was about to walk toward Great Qi's palace, a figure suddenly descended from the sky and blocked his path. It was Qi Deqiang's Dao protector, Feng Qing. Third-grade God Emperor, an expert of Great Qi. It's over. Although River Feather hid his cultivation, he has no background. Even if old Feng killed him, Emperor Xia would not dare to fall out with Great Qi. He hasn't even started acting cool and it's already over? The shock on the crowd's faces gradually disappeared and turned into a familiar mocking expression. In this world, it was probably everyone was originally a piece of trash, so why did you suddenly become so awesome? What? Are you actually the chosen one? I am still the child of the heavenly Tao. F***ck. What's wrong with hiding your cultivation? So what if you have monstrous talent? If I want to mock you, I can always find a suitable reason. You have no background, so you are still trash. Moreover, it's a piece of trash. Taunt as much as you like. However, to everyone's surprise, there wasn't the slightest bit of fear on River Yu's face when he was facing a rank 3 divine emperor. Instead, there was even a faint smile on his face. Then, he suddenly opened his mouth and shouted, "Grandpa!" Huh! Heaven and earth fell silent, but after a long while, not a single phenomenon appeared. Then, everyone seemed to have a sudden realization. Could it be that when River Feather called him Grandpa she was referring to Feng Qing? Pucci, do you think that Elder Feng will take pity on you and let you off just because you call him Grandpa in such a serious manner? You don't say. The way you called him Grandpa just now was quite like that. You made us think that you had a very powerful grandfather behind you. Who are you calling Grandpa? Feng Qing was clearly stunned as well, but the smile on River Feather's face gradually froze. What the f***ck? Where's my grandfather? Shouldn't he descend from the sky at this time and put on a show of an expert descending to kill this villain god emperor and prove my name as the heavenly mandate? Why is there something wrong with the plot? Also, I am very strong, very monstrous, and can kill enemies across realms. But against a god emperor it seems a little difficult. To be honest, River Yu was a little flustered. Why was it that other people could act pretentiously without any hindrance, but when he tried to act pretentious, something would happen? Could it be that his grandfather was a god emperor with a strong mouth and ran away the moment he saw that Feng Qing's cultivation was terrifying? River Yu clenched his teeth. In the end, he suddenly turned his head and looked elsewhere. Grandpa, so you aren't here. But where exactly are you? Your grandson misses you so much. After saying that, he walked around Feng Qing and headed in the other direction of the relay station. Huh! Feng Qing's eyes narrowed, and a trace of hesitation flashed through his eyes. This River Yu was, after all, the son-in-law of the great Xia dynasty. He naturally didn't dare to kill him on the spot. But he couldn't kill him. But since he dared to act pretentious in front of him, wouldn't it be an insult to his dignity as a god emperor if he were to let him go just like that? Come back here. Feng Qing waved his hand. Above River Yu's head, there seemed to be an enormous force that slapped him across the face. Pucci! River Yu's face instantly turned pale, and blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. He looked extremely miserable. Didn't you say that you would bring me here to act pretentious? Why is my face suddenly hurting so much? My mentality is collapsing. Beep. The destined child's mentality is collapsing. Congratulations to the host for plundering 500 luck points and 5,000 villain points. Hearing the system's notification, Ling Zhao's lips curled up. He still didn't make a move. Are you messing around? River Yu is the destined child. Have you ever seen a destined child slap someone's face the moment they come up? Wouldn't he be humiliated and beaten up? Then, at the crucial moment, there would be a twist? Of course, we have to make him stand out as the destined protagonist. Otherwise, wouldn't we be messing up his character? Ha 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 ha. Is there something wrong with River Yu's brain? He actually came here to act pretentious? He's probably too careless. He thought that he could do whatever he wanted just because he hid his cultivation level. He neglected his own identity. The extras started to mock him mercilessly again. River Yu's aura also started to weaken. Right at this moment, a loud buzzing sound came from heaven and earth. Then, something terrifying happened. The great Chi God Emperor, who had been acting almighty just a moment ago, suddenly had a look of astonishment on his face. Then, his figure suddenly disappeared on the spot. "Grandson, I'm sorry. I had to relieve myself on the way here. You can continue to act pretentious." A familiar old voice came from the void, and River Yu's eyes were filled with excitement. "Damn. Grandpa, you went to relieve yourself. I almost had to relieve myself on the spot just now." However, to be able to capture a rank 3 God Emperor with a wave of his hand, Grandpa's cultivation level, hiss. It seems like I can act pretentious happily again. Inside the realm, Fong Qing frowned slightly, especially when he looked at the slightly desolate world in front of him. A faint sense of uneasiness suddenly surged in his heart. Who was it that could capture him to this foreign realm when he was unprepared? But he and Qi Diqiang had come here to form an alliance. Furthermore, this was the imperial capital of the great Xia dynasty. Who would dare to make a move on him? Could it be River Yu's grandfather? For some reason, Fong Qing felt a chill in the bottom of his heart. Buzz. Before Fong Qing could figure it out, a surge of spirit chi shot up into the heavens from the sky. Then, to his shock, he saw a 300-meter-long dragon that seemed to be completely condensed by spiritual energy. It instantly shattered space and descended toward him. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.